pink lemonade, and also flavored with monk fruit. So not flavored with sucralose artificial sweetener. So pick your poison, and there's plenty of them. Don't have more than 4. Not recommending more than 4. But and this is the newest flavor right here, pink lemonade. So if you guys are into pink lemonade,
I'm gonna hit that the sweet tea.
Yeah.
You said this is tea.
Yeah, it's the sweet tea lemonade mix.
Oh yeah, like an Arnold Palmer. That's my go-to. Yeah, that's my go-to.
Check them out.
Sponsored by Jocko.
Maybe someday.
That's right.
Maybe someday. I'm just an affiliate, or like I have a code for his stuff. So.
Oh, that's very good.
Like it? Good flavor?
Yeah.
New improved flavor, as you can see on the top. So, good to go. And it's good for you. So.
As I was telling you, the last time you saw me, I was limping around and couldn't hardly walk. At least I'm kind of getting back to normal now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how you guys been? I mean, you guys are both doing it full time.
Hitting the ground running.
How is that? Well, I don't want to cut too far ahead, but are you guys ready to start? We can just small talk first.
Yeah, we're good.
You can pull that arm towards me.
Like
this.
Ben will let you know if it's too far away. But we can start with some small talk.
Yeah,
No, whatever.
Warm up. So
I'm warmed up, dude. I could go through a wall right now. I'm being honest. I don't know. I feel good.
He had the Celsius hitter. Now he's having the Jocko hitter. So
It's easier when things are when you're in a good place.
So how you guys been doing? Last time I saw you guys, you were developing the company. Now you got the company going full time. So kind of bring me up to speed since last time we saw each other and talked.
Sure. Yeah. So we've kind of gone from 0 to 100
real fast,
and that's no overstatement. So it's gone from, what is it going to look like? What is our business model? What is our business plan? And right now it's organically has grown into, we're in the process of, finding out candidates. So we've got about four people or so, 4 to 6 people that next year that we'll have to bring on in order to fulfill the work that's being requested of us.
The demand.
Should be a group of about 12 by March or April.
Yeah. Total inside the business. Yeah. And what are those positions you guys are looking for?
We'll eventually get another project manager, but for the most part, it's field superintendents, project superintendents that we can manage. We've got several jobs that are going to hit kind of, spacing a month or so apart. Hire those guys on strategically, make sure that we can onboard them properly, and that's going to be our first round of hires. It's going to be kind of all field guys.
So it's going to be 4 initial hires in order to meet the demand that's currently projected right now for 2023.
Yeah, that's nice.
So there will be a team. So that'll get us to about a company of 8. So nice. Our wives are involved in our business and are actually the sole owners of the business, or majority owners, excuse me.
That's right.
So
nice.
Which they handle the marketing, accounting, administration, billing.
Yeah.
So important parts of the business. And as you know, no matter if someone has a actual piece of the company, your family's in it with you, whether they want to or not. And we thought it was important to ensure that we include that part and piece in our company.
How's it going so far with the family relationship intermingled with the business relationship? So far, so good. So far, so smooth.
I'm used to it, man. I had it for 12 straight years.
That's why you guys made them the bosses. You made the wives the
They're
bosses.
already the bosses.
You're good to go.
I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My dad always had 2-3 jobs. He was a City of Charleston fireman. He was a captain down there for years, but he ran his own real estate company, did that for many, many years. My sister does the same thing. My wife and I had one for 11 and a half years. We did the historical restorations and did that. So I was kind of used to it. I know Brendan has adapted well. But, it is something to kind of get used to. But I think it's going to be pretty perfect for us.
Yeah, and then the benefit of it is what I correspond and directly do is on key with Stephanie, who's Justin's wife. And because, the project management with the accounting is kind of goes hand in hand. So that's worked out well. and then same vice versa.
I communicate with Haley a lot with
Yeah.
all the signage for the job sites and kind of everything that we need to kind of push forward in the marketing side, and
Yeah.
it makes it nice because everyone kind of talks to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pushed. It's not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It just works really well because everyone has a really even kind of take on it, even responsibilities, and I mean it couldn't work any better as far as divvied up responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and initially Justin and I had worked together previously, and years ago, and we weren't necessarily buddies or friends, but we were friends in the workplace, co-workers.
We got along. Yeah.
Had each other's numbers. It wasn't like I was calling him on his birthday by any means.
You should have though.
You didn't even send him a text?
Well, we weren't.
Birthday pic?
We weren't even. We weren't even.
Not that close of friends.
Yeah,
or anything?
we would talk. But, hey, hope everything's going well.
We'd see each other on job sites all the time.
Hadn't talked to you in a long time.
Yeah.
How's your new job? But so because that was a question at first, just with Justin, his previous life had started a company. He's gone through the ups and downs and everything, which brings a great experience to us.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that friendship, could definitely. I mean, you work closely with Chris.
Yeah.
But not having that good of a friendship, I think, has helped, us stay more focused on the best decisions for the business in general.
Right. Yeah. All right, so we're going to do the introduction of this episode. We've been having some small talk. It's been a while since I've seen Justin and Brendan. But right before we started recording, we were talking about energy drinks. And we are drinking the Jocko. And what do you guys think so far?
No, it's good.
It's good?
I'm
Flavors?
killing the owner.
Flavor
Owner
profile,
right
you
now.
like it?
Yeah.
We're good to go. Ben, you're having the new flavor, the pink lemonade. Flavor profile good?
Pink mist.
Pink mist?
For being,
Iced tea lemonade for me, man.
That's a good one,
I'm
man.
killing this one. Yeah.
All right, well, this is Pack Talk Podcast, episode 62. We're here with Gilbert and Lee Construction, Brendan Gilbert and Justin Lee. And we just had a little bit of chatting about catching up since I've seen these guys last, a little bit of background, which we're going to deep dive further into, right? But definitely appreciate you guys taking some time today to sit down. Little background real quick. Me and Brendan grew up together, essentially. Brendan was around Ben's class age group, right? So me and Brendan's brother, Cameron, we went to the Citadel together. We did civil engineering at the Citadel. Somehow survived that. Somehow I survived that because I'm a dog trainer now. You know what I'm saying? So
That's right.
But somehow we survived the Citadel engineering, and Brendan went to Clemson and did engineering up there. I'm not going to get into the details. I'll let you get into the details. So, but thank you guys.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yep. Thank you for having us.
We'll start off with Brendan. Give us a little bit of your background, real quick. Some things that you remember from growing up that impacted where you are today. Maybe they helped lead you to some of the decisions that you've made to be where you are now. A little bit about college, and then to the path that you're on now with Gilbert and Lee Construction.
For sure, yeah. So you know the background for me, but my family started a nonprofit business. So for 21 years, knowing and having the ability to kind of have control of your time and your schedule. I don't know if I ever recognized how important that is or how much of a leisure that is. Mm-hmm. And as obviously, after college and working for another general contracting firm, families growing and married and baby number 1 and then 2 on the way, you really, that having kids obviously helps you really, where do I want to be? How can I give them what they need? And so looking back how I came from, I want to have the ability to go to my kids' practice whenever I want, or I want to have the ability to schedule around what I'm doing. And no matter where you really work, and until you have that full freedom, you're always you don't have that luxury. Yeah. And with that and that entrepreneurship that my parents had started, I think that's something that's always lived in me. So I went to Clemson, did construction science and management. So exactly, the exact degree for exactly what I went into. Yeah. And then went to a growing general contracting firm that was, probably small to medium size that grew to a successful and large general contractor, which helped me see and grow into, very quickly in their company.
Yeah.
And then just always having that fire, I don't know, no matter what the circumstances were, I was fortunate to be where I was and to set me up to be able to be here today.
Yeah.
So I think really that's the quick and dirty on that is, having an entrepreneur in the beginning, wanting, trying to see that 5, 10, 15-year outlook.
Yeah.
And then how do you achieve that? And working backwards from there, I think, is really what gave the fire.
Yeah, you ever look back on some of the things your mom and dad were doing running that nonprofit? Do you ever look back on that and see, if that makes sense why they did that? Or, any thoughts on?
The first initial thought with that is, how can I don't know how they did what they did just with that type of work because of the sacrifice associated with that. And just knowing what it takes just to have a family right now, and the sacrifice of time is a lot, as is with a quote-unquote normal life.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that is very prevalent to myself and what, we can get into how it all started with Justin and I, but we see eye to eye on a lot of things. So the one thing that I take from that is, how can I incorporate core values or characteristics of what made a nonprofit, and how can I impact people through our business? And that's probably what I take most is, how can I be successful to allow me to, bless and be able to help others out.
Yeah. Good to go.
Yeah.
Justin, kind of give us your quick background, some of the things that impacted you throughout your life up till this point, where you went to college at, kind of your experiences through life that led up to where you are right now.
So from Summerville, from Charleston, born downtown Charleston. My father was a captain at the City of Charleston Fire Department. So just kind of grew up, he was 24 on a lot, 48 on, kind of depending on his schedule. So I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, really into sports, played sports my whole life. Graduated from Summerville High School, slated to kind of go play ball at Clemson. That was my deal. And kind of some things last minute with some deaths in my family kind of pushed me away from that, and ended up not going that path and stayed here and went to Charleston Southern, majored in English and philosophy and religion,
Nice.
kind of double major there, really
Yeah.
random.
Yeah.
I don't use any of that, but it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
But during that, ever since I was a young kid, I always helped my dad and grandfather do everything that they did. I was the only son, the only grandson. So when it came to, fixing Pop's roof on his 140-year-old house, or, splitting wood with my dad, or feeding the chickens, grew up on a little farm, I took part in all of that. So a very hands-on childhood in that regard. And not a lot of kids grew up like me, feeding the chickens before I went to school in the morning, collecting eggs, feeding the hogs, feeding the...
I think Chad can relate.
Yeah, feeding the peacocks and getting hens. It was just, it was a very different way to grow up. So kind of fast forward, during college, I got my first real job, working construction, and worked for a gentleman on James Island, and became a subcontractor for him, got my specialty license, and went on to get my contractor's license. But it was kind of funny. I kind of fell into it, never really wanted to do it because I kind of grew up helping them do all that stuff. And was like, I never want to do that.
Yeah.
But then I was good at it, so I kind of kept doing it, and got really, and I've always loved history, got really into historical restorations, and did a lot of beach houses, did a lot of historical restorations, kind of specialized in some of the stuff that I had been taught as a kid, some wrought iron work, plaster moldings, horsehair plaster panels, some ornamental copper work, some really unique kind of things that not a lot of people could do on the peninsula, that kind of set us apart as a company, that kind of made a name for ourselves, as well as the production stuff, the additions and the remodels and stuff like that. So I stayed in that residential world for many, many years. Like I was saying before, my wife and I had a company for about 11 and a half years, and really enjoyed that. And then, kids came along and all that stuff, and it just got to be, we had a ton of guys back then. We had over 50 guys for us at one time.
Dang.
And the hustle just got a little too much. And so I kind of went to the dark side, or I kind of used to say it at the time, and did strictly commercial.
Yeah.
Went to a company of one of my competitors at the time. I used to bid against them on just some hospital upfits and stuff. And that's where I met Brennan. So we were, kind of the first couple round of hires there. They were a small company at the time.
So so just so the listener and myself is clear, you had your own company, and then you decided, hey, this is getting super crazy.
That's right.
So then you went and worked for the same company that Brennan worked for.
That's
Correct?
right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
how
Yeah.
it
So we
worked out.
started
Almost the same time.
pretty close around the same time. I think there was 20, maybe 15 employees or so at the time.
It was an up and coming
That's
construction
right.
firm. You call it a construction firm? Is that the technical word?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
General contractor.
General
Yeah.
contractor,
So it was and that's how when I was at school, my main thing was, what is the place that I can grow the fastest, period. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And
So you're looking for an up and coming.
so I wanted,
Yeah.
so knowing that information and doing that, how can you grow the fastest is if it's a company that needs you to grow.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so that was something that was, that's how I came down to choose.
So that's when you guys first met. You started working for this company.
Yeah,
That's right.
You
Yep.
said Brennan's a pretty cool guy. Yeah.
Well,
he was like,
I-
he's a little.
The first time I ever met him, I was on a project, and he came down to help me punch out a job.
Just thrown into it.
Yep, and I think you were hired a little bit after me because we were punching that job out up in Elgin, and I think you came to help me with some doors that were
Yeah, I mean,
left out
Justin,
of a
I
bit.
think we worked till midnight, like every day for a week. So, or at least I did. He did it.
But it was really
Very
awesome. I mean, believe it or not, we got to know each other a lot during that time of,
Hanging 100 doors.
hanging 100 doors with someone, and
Yeah.
getting to talk with them, 6 or 7 hours straight till midnight. And there's no one in a big old building but y'all,
We went to that restaurant, and Justin would walk into the restaurant, and they would give him. He wouldn't even sit down. I kid you not. And they'd have he'd be sitting down for maybe 30 seconds.
They knew it. They already knew what he wanted.
He's like,
I have
boom,
this habit
they had
of
your
places that I work, so it's like a ongoing joke now. Like whether I'm working in North Carolina, I only eat at one place.
Oh, okay.
Like
you got your place.
I do.
Justin's
I find
place.
what I like.
same seat,
Yeah.
extra sauce.
So he's a man of habit.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I'm
Routine.
I'm a creature
Oh,
of
yeah.
habit.
Yep.
And so yeah, that was my spot up there.
That shocked Brendan. You had your order ready for you.
I didn't have to say a word. They were on the ball. I mean, with the extra kung fu
It was a good
sauce.
process. Yeah,
What'd you think, Brendan? You're like, dude, this guy's got it going on.
the sauce was a nice touch
Nice.
because it wasn't on the menu.
I ended up getting I ended up
nice.
getting my own burger. Yeah,
Nice,
yeah.
dude.
I gave them plenty of money, and I think they
Yeah.
felt sorry for me after a while, and just
This guy's always here.
yeah,
He's exhausted.
he's been here every day for 13 months. We're gonna hook him up with something.
But
Dang.
yeah, so when we first met, I'm pretty fresh out of school, living in. I think at the time I was living in Charlotte. Yeah, I was living in Charlotte,
you were
North
still in
Carolina, and at that time, did we ever think that it would transpire to today? I mean, there was probably there's probably 0% thought
Right.
because my head wasn't even
Yeah.
there yet.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And Justin kind of showed you some of the ropes because obviously you had been working while Brendan was in school, so you had a lot of experience and all that. Right?
Yeah, the field side through and through. That's really where I have my strong suit. Over the years I've learned, the processes through everything and how everything comes together from the project management side, how a job originates, how to sell the work, how to do the pre-con properly and do all your takeoffs. What's funny is when I owned a company previously, I was doing a lot of those things and not even realizing it though, because I was the one doing all of that. So I was bidding my own work and, putting together the contracts and writing all that. So I was getting an education and not even really realizing it.
Forcefully.
Right, exactly. Obviously a little more in depth when you're talking about the size jobs that we do and back then, but I've been a field guy through and through. I'm the guy with his pants tucked in his boots with the hard hat on in the field. That's me, you know.
Good to go. Well, backing it up real quick back to the farm. Chickens, guineas, hogs, peacocks. Is that what y'all had? What else did you have? Anything else?
My goodness. ducks, chickens,
Oh,
goats,
you
geese.
had the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I think we had a couple emus at one time.
Oh wow.
My dad had a pet alligator named Charlie.
What? You had an alligator, dude?
And my dad's a wild.
What
He's
the heck?
a character.
Well,
man.
the house is on that
Yeah.
pretty big pond, right?
Yeah,
He still has the property? Your family still has
my
the property?
parents still live there. It's a 15-acre lake out toward you're heading toward Givans.
Okay.
But yeah, grandparents ended up moving next door eventually. We're all surrounding the lake. My uncle was across the lake. But yeah, it was a very unique way to grow up. I'd hide my fishing pole in my book bag and stop at the dam when I would walk from the bus because it was all unpaved when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
It was like growing up 50 years ago. Was kind of how I grew up.
Well, talk to us about the alligator. Real quick story about the alligator pet.
So my dad brought home 3, and I think 2 ended up getting out, and Charlie was the one that ended up hanging out and staying.
He just wanted one? Or what was his reasoning or purpose? Don't know.
He used to frequent many places where he would buy animals and stuff like that, whether it's animal sales or the flea market or whatever. And he just ran across a guy with some gators for sale and bought 3 pups.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, Charlie was the last one. He lived in a bathtub outside for a while. It's like an old cast iron bathtub my dad had salvaged
when it was a little one.
Yeah. And the other 2 ended up escaping. They got into the pond and lived their lives. And and Charlie stuck around until he was fairly large, and then he got out one day and he lived in the pond. And the large flood that we had years ago, it's kind of sad. Ended up drowning him. He got stuck to the top of the grate of the dam because the water was so strong, and it drowned him. And he was about 6 foot when that happened.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I've got crazy stories as a kid. Canadian geese, and we had a crazy goose that during Hurricane Hugo latched himself to the top of one of our fences and stayed there during the whole storm.
What?
It was just crazy as a kid to grow like that. I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a goat outside your window, like staring at you,
bro. I gotta get some goats.
Oh yeah, they were wild. The peacocks were the coolest though. Growing up, we had 2. They were all named Blue Boy, all the males, but we had one that had a 16-foot tail, and his span was huge. I mean, and he lived for many years. But they're really neat animals. And the African guinea hens, those 2, they eat their weight in ticks like every few days.
Oh yeah.
So we never had a problem with insects or anything like that. And they're better than any guard dog on the planet.
Oh yeah.
If anything comes in that yard,
I just did my first guinea hatch this year.
There you go.
I tried to post it on Instagram, but
nice, yes.
I got 25 right now.
Oh, there you go.
I got a bunch of Keats that are growing up, and Ben's been around them. But I've been training them to sit on your arm. So they'll come fly up on my arm. I'll feed them.
That's awesome.
We got, I don't even know how many chickens right now. We got a bunch of chickens too. But peacocks are on my list though.
Peacocks
I've heard they're very fragile when they're young.
They are very fragile when they're young. We would always keep ours inside for a set amount of time until they kind of, and whether that was the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it.
Until they get all their feathers and they're stable enough to be out in the elements.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you guys have any kind of coop or enclosure for them, or you just let them roost themselves in the trees?
We did, but it got to where they knew where to come and eat, but for the most part they knew the property and they would live in the trees. They would roost about 40 foot up in the trees. And
they did their own
they
thing.
didn't like to go inside. They would just but they never left. They would never wander. They'd kind of go around the property boundaries, maybe jump the fence occasionally and walk around and peck a little bit, but for the most part they stayed right there. Never had a single one wander off though.
That's cool, man.
Really neat. Really enjoy those. Had a couple of big hogs. We never killed any of ours for meat. I think that was the intention maybe originally, but then they get names, and
that's right.
As soon as they get names, they're staying.
Were the hogs tearing up the ground and all that, like rutting and all that?
We had Gordy, which was the girl that we had, and we had her for forever and ever. And she would root a little bit, but she had her own little spot kind of in the back, and she got to where she would wander around the 5 or 6 acres there. And then next door, my grandparents had another 5 or 6. So it was, she had plenty of room, and she would just do her thing. The only people that annoyed her were the puppies occasionally.
Oh,
But
any rooster issues, or you had roosters as your friends?
I I mean, I had a few rooster issues over the years. We had a huge Dominic that was probably 20 pounds. He was the biggest rooster I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he was a monster, an absolute monster. And he could be a little bossy. This Rhode Island red rooster was probably the meanest we ever had, though. He had little guy syndrome, man. I mean, he would fight anyone at the drop of a hat. I mean, him and this little bantam one were the smallest, but they were ferocious. They'd fight you for looking at him. But the biggest one was pretty lethargic. You know, he'd just kind of hang out. He had a little attitude problem sometimes, but I think he was so fat, he just was, whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
docile, hanging out.
But, I mean, growing up like that was just different. You know, it was fun, you know, going and fishing in your backyard and going hunting across the street, you know, within – 2 minutes I was in the middle of a forest, with just me and my dog, and it was just a different way to grow up.
My brother, my oldest brother, refers us to free-range children growing up.
That's right. My only rule was to be home.
80 acres in Jedburgh in 2000. Yep. There was nothing out there.
We all had horses out there. Horses. Y'all brought horses at some point, right?
And then we had a couple of calves, and they eventually got sold. So.
And your only rule is to be home when it gets dark.
That's the way to do it as a kid.
My mom was joking
80
with me
acres to go
hang out,
go entertain yourself because that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
My mom was joking with me yesterday because my son wants a snake, and my wife has put a complete, absolute stop to that. That will never happen. But my mom was joking with me. She was like, that I would bring them in from outside, and she would walk in my room. I don't remember that happening, but apparently
that's pretty funny.
You'd have some random snakes in your room hanging out.
Yeah, turtles. That's what I said. I mean, whatever we would find, it became.
Not a snake guy.
Yeah,
it got named, and it would be a pet. You know.
Good to go, man. You ever, Brendan? You remember any coyote issues out of that place?
I remember seeing the coyote poop, but I don't ever remember seeing or the tracks.
There's a story. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but one of the guys that moved, how you guys started letting people build houses there. This one family built a house out there, and apparently they were closing the gate to their little area, and it was like coyotes or wild dogs or something ran up at them. I don't know if that's a true story or not.
Was it like a chicken coop or something?
No, it was like the gate to his driveway. I think he was closing that, and they said, the dogs or coyotes or something charged me or whatever. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if you had any experiences with them yourself.
No, I hadn't heard anything. I know they're way back when it was first. There was tons of deer stands out there, and then I think there were some bobcat tracks, but I don't think there was. I mean, I was out there a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I don't.
Coyote issues probably a myth.
A lot of foxes.
We always had dogs.
We had
a lot of foxes.
But we always had a few dogs with us.
Wander around.
Yeah.
Oh, you had dogs with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if. Yeah. I had a couple. We usually always had boxers growing up, so I mean.
Always good to have a good dog around.
Oh, you better believe it.
Always good to have a good dog. Especially or guineas. If you don't have dog, got to have some guineas
with you.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'll tell you what. We'll get off the farm stories here for a second, but I just got to say, guineas, man, I've had some fox issues out at my place trying to get my chickens. And my guineas have saved my chickens more times than I can count because they'll see that fox and they'll go do their berserker attack on the fox, and the fox will run off. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know what a guinea tack looks like. I'm going to have to YouTube it.
It's wild, man.
It's crazy.
It sounds very similar to the noise you just heard me say. But yeah, they are very energetic. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, next time you come out, you'll see
just beeping
25 to 30 guineas.
I think since I've been out there, there's a whole other.
I had 4 last time you came out. 4. Yeah. Now there's 25.
Imagine your car horn and you just like hitting it really fast. Like that's how they sound.
Yeah.
And then that times 25.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's wild, man. They'll let you know when something's around.
It's good, man. It's good. I mean, that's how I know when things are trying to get the chickens.
Absolutely. Fox and possum were always what we had to worry about the most.
Yeah.
The possums were pretty all right. You didn't have to worry about them too much unless they had like an easy way in.
Yeah.
But the fox were, they were brutal. They'd find a way in and decimate your whole coop.
Oh yeah. I've got possum around. Never caused an issue with the chickens. They've taken a couple eggs, but the foxes.
That's right.
Man,
they're pretty.
Yeah, they want the eggs.
That's right.
I will say I've seen my guineas chasing copperheads off. So they also are really good snake control.
Absolutely.
Ever since I got them, I haven't seen any copperheads other than the ones they're chasing. Because before then, we used to have copperheads all over the place.
That's right.
And then the other thing too is I had a guinea hen on a nest, and you know how they make they have like a nest that's like 40 eggs. It's crazy.
That's right.
And they sit on it. But one day, all the guineas surround the nest. They're going crazy. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Snake.
So I walk over there.
Had a snake on the eggs.
Big old fat rat snake,
Yes, sir.
trying to eat some eggs, and these guys are,
Did he
obviously
spit the
pissed
egg?
off,
Did he
you know?
spit the eggs back at you?
Yeah, well, he spat the eggs
Yeah.
out. He's going away. You know what I'm saying?
That's what they used to. They used to come into the chicken coop and do that to me. I'd be getting eggs at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And you'd look in there, and there'd be one in there, and you'd scare him, and he'd spit the eggs back at you.
They
That's what they
regurgitate it
do.
real quick.
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
crazy,
They
man.
get scared, and they'll
Yeah.
throw them up at you.
Yeah. But,
It's good for
Good story.
the kids out there. Don't have to
Oh
look
yeah.
out. I mean,
my kids are up before school. They go out there, open up the chicken coop. Our chickens are free
That's
range
awesome.
and eating all the bugs, so we don't feed them too much. But we do have feeding time, or we'll feed them a little bit of feed or mealworms.
Absolutely.
Just to keep them. Again, you want them to know where their headquarters
Homeowners,
is,
yeah.
because they'll go out all day, then they'll come back at the end of the day.
That's right.
So we do that. We do that once in the morning, once in the evening with the kids. And then my kids love just picking up the chickens and petting them. You know what I'm saying? So
It's just
cool.
the best, man. It's
Good way to
it's
do
a
it
great
with
way
the
to grow
kids,
up.
yeah.
It really is. I wouldn't change a thing.
absolutely, man. So that's kind of y'all's backgrounds. A lot of farm stories, property stories, which is the way to do it. But now you guys have started up your own construction business. What's been some of the challenges in getting to this point?
Well, I mean, it's really just been time. I think we did everything the right way. Slowly did everything the way we wanted to do it. We didn't follow any particular blueprint. We tried to assess everything that we ever thought was kind of a shortcoming of any firm we had ever worked
what
for
could
with,
be improved.
or what could be improved, and we tried to change that, and we took our time doing it, and yeah, if anything, I would say the time was like with any other company, putting it in, doing it the way you want to do it, and really taking your time and doing it correctly.
Yeah, and with that, I would say the tough part, I guess, or the challenges, I think, are the same challenges that anyone would face in starting a business, is taking that leap. Both Justin and I had both two very good, stable, secure jobs where we were, where we were content at.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is it's one thing to leave somewhere because you feel underpaid or you feel, undervalued. But when you're somewhere where you don't have it bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that was a little bit different for us, is that we could have stayed where we were and have a good living and be able to take care of our families. But for us, we wanted more, and in order to do that, the only way that we could really, I think, fulfill what we wanted to do was to start our own company.
Yeah. So
really what had happened was me being very headstrong, and just the personality that I am is, I had this, just gut feeling for the longest time. And so I looked at it, and we were talking today, I'm very, very calculated. And
very calculated.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and that, which is,
I know what parking spot he's going to park in every morning.
it's a blessing and a curse. It's great for the job that we're in.
Yeah.
But for me to think about which, if I take a left or right, which is going to be faster, and it's like, I'm going home, it doesn't matter. But then my brain is processing that. It's like, please turn off. Please
Yeah.
turn off. But
Have you guys ever read the book The Power of Understanding People?
I have not.
No, you guys should definitely check that out. But like your personality calculation is, because the guy that wrote the book basically breaks everybody down into 4 categories.
Right.
And it helps you kind of interact with people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so your calculated personality is like, he calls it like an expert. You know what I'm saying? Someone that's like bulletized thinking, always thinking the most efficient way, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Then on the opposite end of the spectrum of a expert is what he calls a mastermind, which is someone that's kind of scatterbrained, can't really collect their thoughts that well. They like new adventures all the time and just, shifting topics very quickly. Whereas the expert likes to go in order, you know what I'm saying?
So what was the example you used the other day, maybe a few months ago? you had mentioned like my brain is a bullet point or something like that.
Yeah, well,
You got a list of checkpoints in there.
You were talking to Stephanie or something, and you were comparing the way my thinking or just the way I.
Well, a lot of that came from our personality test that we did in Leadership Dorchester, and we all. And my sister used to be in HR, and now she's got a large role in a corporate company. But she did a lot of those personality trait tests and really knew them well and kind of delved into it. And we did them for Leadership Dorchester program through the chamber this year. And yours just kind of reigned true because I had to take one. And the second they were like reading out all the different types and kind of the descriptions of each, that's where I kind of got that from. And I was like, oh, well, that's friggin' Brendan right there. That just described my partner absolutely perfectly. But yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, that's kind of where.
So I guess to go back on your question, what were the challenges in starting? So one is the challenges of just the willpower and the, getting the courage. To just make the jump, because I looked at it and said, here I am. If I stay where I'm at for 5 more years, what am I going to gain from that?
And that's kind of the untangible, you know.
I might gain some more knowledge in other projects. Will I see a different aspect of the company? Will I see a different role? Probably not for where I was as a senior project manager. I wasn't probably going to see much more than what I was doing, just because of how everything was structured at the time. So taking that information and saying, okay, well, I mean, if I'm not getting some vast improvement financially and as my career in general, then hey, I mean, what's the difference between right now and next year? Probably me just doing a couple more projects. Which you gain some knowledge there, but then it's so let's roll, baby. So
hey, I'm all about jumping off the deep end.
So then I said, you know what? And fortunately, I have a very supportive. If I told her I was gonna go, hike around the world, I mean, she'd probably be like, okay, I mean,
see when you get back.
Yeah. So very supportive and kind of that crazy kind of thoughts, because it's, some people can look at that and say, why? And even my pops was kind of like, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're in a pretty good spot. Like, don't they take care of you? I'm like, yeah.
Well, I think it's the drive for something more, and you can't. A person that's idle like that, or a person that's comfortable in kind of a 9-to-5 is one thing, but I think anyone who's driven, that wants more, once they hit that glass ceiling and they know there's nothing more for them, monetary or not, or regardless of how much money you would be getting, there's a certain unhappiness that comes with that, knowing that that's kind of the end, especially if that's not where you want to be, if it's short of your overall goal,
it's 10 years away.
Just that kind of glass ceiling, but kind of going back to what we were talking about before, kind of the untangible being, quitting a job or something like that, but the tangible side of what has been a little bit of a challenge is just, putting your name on everything, writing all of your templates, getting everything organized, just like any other company. And even more so with a construction firm, being a GC, really doing things the way you want it requires. You can't take anything from anyone else. It's all yours. So especially because we're changing a lot of things and doing it a little differently. Writing all these methods in our own image kind of deal is it takes some time, to go through all these processes and say, what are we going to change? How are we going to change it? Do we really want to do it that way? And analyzing every part of the construction process and breaking it down, and then therefore changing it from what would be necessarily considered the norm in a lot of cases. Now there's some things that obviously have stayed the same, but
there's industry standard.
But there is a lot of things that we've put our own little tweak on that we consider ourselves to be slightly above the competitor when it comes to that.
So the immediate challenge obviously was making that decision, to leave, but then also with that is, okay, I'm going to do this. Then it's, okay, what do I do from here? Well, now you've got to, who do you want to be?
There's no rule book.
Oh, yeah.
How do you want to define yourself? What do you want to be known for? How do you want to, what are your, the overused term, core values? Because, and like Justin said, we feel like we've done everything the right way, and the word we've been using over the past year or so is organic. And defining who you want to be and projecting that out, years ahead. I mean, it really, you start to really peel back some layers, because you're not just, okay, I'm going to quit, I want to make more money. Okay, it's a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah.
And you can do it that way, sure.
Yeah.
But as far as a long-term success,
we started with the core values.
So, so I hadn't talked to Justin in a long time, and I gave this man a call, and he was about to be in a change of scenery from his job. And so I go, hey, Justin, hey, man, hope you're doing well. And let me back up one more step. I had made that decision. I was going to do it with or without anyone. I was doing it. I mean, I was going to figure it out. Now, whoever I partnered with would obviously change how that avenue, do I go here, or, do I take, maybe I'm a little bit more residential with a little bit of commercial, which is a little less risky, and I would say that takes, it's a little bit easier to do versus doing maybe something like a design build project. Yeah. So with that being said, I had contacted Justin, reached out to him. I had this plan, I had this vision. And I mean, it went from a 3-minute conversation, hey man, how's it going, to we were probably on the phone for like an hour and a half. And he was just, after that phone call, he's like, dude, I'm ready.
He's ready to jump off the deep end, like you said. You just had to open the door.
So, because the funny thing was, he had already started the conversations again with his wife on, hey, maybe we give this thing one more shot. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the difficult part for you was, do I really want to get in that again? Because I know what it looks like. But now here's a guy who is, the biggest thing for me for calling Justin was, what are identifying my weaknesses? What are my weaknesses? Well, my weakness is, I'm really good at, in my mind, and I think I am, I'm very confident in my abilities as a project manager. Where do I lack? I lack in the field side. So how can I be the best that I can be? Because when I hire someone, if I can't relate to the person that I'm hiring as a superintendent, how can I really be the best that I can for him if I don't understand his job? So, and I could get on to we could talk a long time on that. So with that being said, so identifying my weaknesses, boom, this guy fulfills a lot of the weaknesses. I mean, and like I like to say, as I am short, he is tall.
Yeah.
Peas and carrots, baby. Peas and carrots. Yeah. That's right.
And so, I mean, kind of kick off on, and I know we're kind of going around about the challenges, but this is kind of the process of how did it, from a thought to an action to then finding that team in order to do so.
And I had thought about it for a while as well. It's once you've done it, I mean, having the ability to work your own schedule and do your own thing, and then knowing I did it in my early 20s. I started when I was very young.
You're talking about once you've done it once you've ran your own business. That's what you're talking about.
Correct,
and
exactly.
Everything that goes along with that.
So it was like a drug, doing that for so long as a young man, and then being fairly successful at it, and then growing a company from $100,000 up to we did a couple million my last year doing it, and kind of seeing that transformation, and then having to leave it never leaves you. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the second that fire was ignited back, and I had someone yet again that I never had prior, it was my wife and I, young kids, about the most difficult thing you can do as far as building a business. And then all of a sudden Brendan's there that fills this huge gap that I never had. And then my wife being, basically full admin, she's kept books and done that stuff for years. Very good at it, very talented. Basically just like Brendan, but with finances, which is what's so funny. And it was just perfect. I mean, everything fell into place. I mean, fairly quickly after that. We talked. We had a few talks, and then
it was quick. It was surprising.
And it was kind of a buy-in of everybody from both families, And we wanted to be different in that regard. So we chose to give majority ownership to our wives, as well, not only for some, some job opportunities later on with some set asides and stuff like that, but because we feel like that's kind of an underrepresentation. Them being professionals, and my wife's been in the construction industry almost as long as I have, and kind of really making that buy-in from their side and letting them know that we had a lot of faith in them. That was a big deal to us as well. So
yeah, and because like we had said earlier, whether you think so or not, or as men who lead the household, you have that buy-in from your wife. It's from for me, maybe it's from anything from going and buying a pair of shoes or buying, being able to spend that money, having those decisions as a family, always being integrated in your family. Yeah. If you really think that you're going to run a business and not have an input from your spouse and for how we think and how our families are, you're crazy to think that. So having them as the majority owners, and it is so funny because Justin and I we'd be going through it. It could be something as simple as making a shirt. And actually this is a good example. It was like a couple, some shirts were getting made and everything, and Justin and I were like, dude, that's it. That's a sweet looking shirt. Yeah. No doubt in my mind that everyone's gonna want this one. And let's say there's 4 options. We're like, 2. Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. And then we think it's 2. Everyone in, and immediately it's like, absolutely not. And it kind of just reminded.
But it's clarity though. Yeah. It is, because you get so much tunnel vision through looking through the same eyes. We're good at construction. Yeah, we're good at building hotels and these huge complex structures. They're good at things that we're not good at. Aside from doing what they do. Yeah. And I think that was the moment we kind of realized that. And then they obviously, guys, if you do it like this, or if the logo's on it like this, stuff we would have never thought. So it's this.
And you say it, and we mentioned something as small as a logo, but it's the small things. So the quote from, and hopefully I don't butcher this, but it's a Bear Bryant quote, which we had used on one of our first job presentations.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
Because I just love it. But Bear Bryant, former Alabama coach, goes and says, everyone does well in the big things. It's those who do the small things is what separates us. So everyone's going to be prepared for everyone's going to go to the football game, and everyone's going to be able to throw the football, run the football. But it's the small details that are in that game plan that is really going to be the decisions that win the job, or take you from A to A+, to take you from level 8 to level 10, and that's what again, women in general, and there's a lot of data on it now more than there ever has been on how they operate a business and how they see things differently than just males in general, regardless of if it's a spouse or whatever. They have
absolutely
they see things in different perspectives that we're not able to, and being able to again realize that and understand that and be vulnerable and say, you see things that we don't, and we want to ensure that we have that input so that we not only we're doing the best that we can, but having that input from you is also going to be able to let it's going to take us to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a. If anything, it's a huge plus to have. Yet again, that clarity through those different perspectives, and to me, that's really what it is. And just kind of going back to the whole Bear Bryant quote, doing anything at a high level, I think it is very small increments that separates, companies or individuals from any other person, whether it be sports or the professional world. It's all about what you're putting in, what you're doing different, how you're trying to develop yourself. And yet again, kind of going back to what we were talking about working a 9 to 5 for the rest of your life, that's why you can't do it, because there's no challenge to that. Yeah. And you're either growing or you're standing still, And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here now is because we just couldn't do that.
Yeah. And if anyone is local to the area, I know we have listeners that are all over the world, but if you guys are local to the Summerville, South Carolina area, you've probably seen the Gilbert and Lee Construction sign if you ever travel Highway 78. I see it every day. Yeah. Obviously, because my place is right there. But
we got a few more about to go up as well.
The Dorchester. What's that project up there on 78, though? It's the Dorchester Heritage. Are we allowed to talk about the project, or not the details of it, but actually the name of it?
Yeah.
Dorchester Heritage Project.
That's right. Yeah, it's a museum that we're doing. They're currently moving their site. Their lease has run out up in St. George, and they're moving everything down to a new facility, a new site that's being designed, built. We're part of that. And it'll be right there in Ridgeville. It was really important to them that it be kind of a merge between the west end of Dorchester County and the greater Summerville area, a good halfway point for everyone. They really wanted to kind of merge the county in that respect.
And it's not just a normal piece of property. It's a 80-something acre parcel that's a former farm.
Yeah, with tons of history. It's got a little graveyard on it.
Really?
And in rumor, there's rumored to be a what were they saying in the back of the property? An old.
Well, yeah, there used to be. It was one of the points of travel, and at one point there was a building on the property that would kind of serve as an inn, and stagecoaches would come up, and depending on who you were, or if you had wealth, maybe they would pull you in and help you out or whatever the situation was.
So a very cool deal that we were a part of, and it was a group of a nonprofit group who put this together. So they're
interesting heritage.
You're talking about 6, 7, 8 years of people putting their blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
A lot of retired folks of all kinds of different backgrounds, from lawyers being part of the board to accountants and
retired mechanical engineer.
So it's been a cool process. A
park ranger who's an archaeologist as well.
Oh wow!
There's a very dynamic range of individuals on the board. I've really enjoyed Brendan and I both getting to know.
It's a project that we see that's going to be very rewarding for us and our growing families, and for something like that to be able to take that history and display it, but then also being able to have my girls, when they get older, to be able to go. That should be a field trip destination.
Oh yeah.
And the way they're going about the project isn't like, all right, let's find the cheapest piece of property.
So much thought being put into it.
It's very cool, and they want to make sure that people, when they come onto the property, that they're out of the hustle and bustle. That's the one thing that they continue to say is, we want to make people, when they come here, they feel like they're not in the hustle and bustle.
And they don't want to spoil the natural elements of it. They want it to appear very, very Boone Hall. They want to keep the wetlands, design around them. Yeah. They want the property and the building to merge as far as that's concerned, for it to fit really well on the property, to not take any of the historical relevance from the property. Just really, really doing a great job.
Hit on the leadership group you're with, what you all are doing, and then the fall festival.
So with the Greater Summerville Dorchester Chamber of Commerce this year, I was a part of the leadership 2022 class, the Leadership Dorchester class, and our project that we chose to do was for the Heritage, and we are doing an event pavilion out there. We're actually starting construction this coming week on that, and start pushing some dirt up, and we ordered a rough cut timber pavilion from Connecticut. It's being delivered.
Oh wow.
A really beautiful structure, and then we have roughly 30 in the class or so. Everybody's going to be involved putting it together, and that is going to help them raise money for the museum. So there'll be a ribbon cutting October 22nd. It'll be at 11, and we'll have hay rides and all kind of stuff out there for everyone till about 3 o'clock. Lots of booths set up, jump castles, stuff for the kids, and no one knows where it is. So it's kind of we're trying to bring awareness to.
And that's what that structure is really going to stand for. Is saying, hey,
it's a good anchor point.
This music, and this is the beginning of what we're going to offer here. This is going to be a place to bring your families. Yeah. And again, being a part of something like that is just so awesome.
Absolutely, and gives them a way to start generating some income out there. People can have their weddings there. It's a beautiful structure.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But everything that we had to do for leadership was all self-funded. We raised all the money for it, and ended up between in-kind donations and the money we raised around $70,000 to build this structure, put everything into place.
Yeah.
And a lot of all the people that donate and everything will be named. But huge. Talk about coming together of a community. Just so many people, so involved to make it all happen. We're just really happy to bring that to them.
That's something about Summerville that you don't really see other places. Like Summerville is really good about coming together as a community.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
have the farmers market, the third Thursdays, the sweet tea festival. They do things that you don't really see anywhere else. And I was on I think it was Dorchester County Facebook page, and they had a presentation about the Heritage Center you guys are building, and kind of stepping through what it's, I think some of the pictures of what it's going to look like and all that. Really nice.
It's gonna be nice.
Yeah. So that's super exciting that you guys are doing that.
Thousands of artifacts that they haven't had the chance to display or keep, that they've had to pass on to other places, they'll now be able to keep in-house for everyone to view, from prehistoric whale bones they found in Four Hole all the way to
That's great.
the modern age. So all these
Afghanistan and recent wars and everything like that. It is very impressive, because we've toured the existing facility, and at first it was like, this will be cool, and it's like, wow, and then not only that is that whether it's from any kind of veteran like yourself, but everything's been donated or given, and it's all from Dorchester County, period. It's not, this isn't from up near Greenville, this isn't from Beaufort area, it's Dorchester County. And to wrap your head around prehistoric to horse carriages, and it really puts it in perspective on all of that.
Is this y'all's first official project, or y'all had other projects before that one?
This one won't end up being our first.
No, this will be more of the, I would say, this will be one of our bigger projects, kind of something that we're obviously really proud to put our name on any project that we do. But
absolutely,
this is going to be the first big project, more so that that we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, and it being a design build and being a part of kind of from the beginning has been really special. So that definitely has been a little bit of a dream come true in that regard. You don't get to build a museum every day, and then be a part of designing it and putting it together and raising funds for it, and it becomes a very
staple for the community. So to be able to be, and we hope, so our core values are PACT: passion, agility, community, transparency. Just happened to actually work out that way. So
we planned it that way perfectly.
But our core values is like, oh wow, this PACT. Well, that's kind of our PACT. Our core values is our PACT to our employees.
And that checks every box. When you talk about being involved in the community and getting to do something like that, and
ensuring that we have employees that are all in, agility, being able to if something were like COVID, and always being open to be agile and agile management, being able to always do something, pivot. You always got to be able to pivot. If you're set on, you got your blinders on, and you don't pivot, then you're going to be left in the dust. Then community, and Justin just hit on a little part of the community, and we're hoping to continue to be a large part. And that's how I had mentioned, how can I take a background from ministry and bring that to a construction company. I never thought that I would be able to, but I think our success will allow us to then give in a different way than my family did, but still be able to have a lot of impact. And then transparency, which is what most clients have been really intrigued about and as really catches them. So to hit on that is transparency, really, and we've kind of spoken to you about that, is just the numbers. At the end of the day, oh, you guys sound great. You sound like good guys and girls, and that's great. But what's the number? Because that, at the end, if someone's $2 million and there's another person that's 1.7, and they seem okay, I'm going to save $300,000 and go with them. So with that, we provide all of the information. So when we do an estimate, we have essentially a spreadsheet that we work off of, which breaks down everything into all the details. We provide that to our clients, and that gives them essentially the keys to the car, and they get to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we harp on is making sure that our clients understand the process and understand what we're actually giving them. So most people who, ask about construction services are usually not construction experts.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right? So
Yeah.
it's foolish to think that you're just going to hand someone something over. Okay, well, here's a summary of everything. It's going to cost, again, it's going to cost $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's the normal. Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, it's making sure that by the time you leave, they understand everything. If it takes more time, then so be it. But the more comfortable you are as a client, the more trust you can build. And then
1 minute extra.
And having that honesty really helps the process. And if they're more comfortable, then that's gonna help. That just helps everything in general. And if they have that trust, then maybe there's hey, I recommend you don't do the layout. So we're working on a couple design builds now, and there's people who have this vision, and we're trying to essentially pull it out from them and get into their brain in order to give them the best product. And so we'll ensure, if they have trust in us versus just saying, we'll price it, we'll build it, let me know when you're done with, let me know when you've made all your decisions, versus, we're taking the steps and what can we do, what products can we use to, and, ensure we give you that look that you're looking for, but then also hit it within budget.
Yeah.
So, an audit experience without having to be audited.
Yeah.
And that's been huge and insanely receptive. And
Yeah, you're already getting it. It's,
if we know that our experience is, between he and I and our team, with he and I at the head of just that construction project, I would put us against anyone here in the Low Country without a doubt. Period. So with knowing that and being comfortable with that and being confident in that, how else can we don't have a name that's been around for 25 years like a lot of other people. So how can we ensure that we offer something that's more than everyone else? Well, we'll show you everything. We just want to make we want to ensure that we earn our fee and we do an honest job of doing so, versus, unfortunately, and a lot of people probably listening have experienced it. If anyone has a house or has ever built anything or used a contractor, you might get numbers that vary 50%.
Yeah.
And it
Absolutely.
is extreme. And not only that is, I hope they return my phone call. Or nowadays it seems like
a lot of times it's just settling on who can actually do it.
Yeah, who will actually contact
I called
you back.
I called 5 people and this one answered, so I'm going to use them.
Yeah, let alone the quality or knowing anything about them, or
So just with all that being said, we wanted to ensure that we could even go into we could go into our logo of how that even transpired, because we wanted to be different.
Well, how'd you guys design it? That's a big deal for a business. You gotta, as a business, that's part of your pride.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Part of who you are
Your stamp.
is your logo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it all comes back to like a little saying that we do is 1 more minute. 1 more minute. If anything can be improved by 1 more minute, then we're going to take that minute. We're going to do it. So, our logo, we went back and forth for months.
And again, that's
what about the name? Were you guys always set on Gilbert and Lee, or did y'all have?
I was
some other
actually
names?
the complete opposite. So I was very set on not using, and I could be a little weird about this, but we took our time, and it was very, very gradual and slow. And to again add one more comment to the challenges was that I had a 1-year-old daughter, or one going on 2, and then then having a second on the way, working a full-time job that was, as a senior leadership there,
you kept you busy.
It wasn't
extremely busy.
It wasn't like I was going home and that was. I just wish I had more stuff to do at work.
That's right. And then we'd work till 2 a.m.
So then it's and then I had talked about love me some energy drinks now.
Yeah.
So a challenge
pick
was
you up a Jocko.
Yep.
Understanding that part is going to be tough, and when are you going to work? Well, I work a full-time job. I respect that job. I respect that employer. So being able to work, you get the, like we talked about, giving the girls the bath, making sure everyone has dinner, making sure that you do what you need to as your spouse,
and then going back to work at 9 p.m.
and then whatever time that is, which usually ended up being about 9:30 for me. I'd call Justin, we'd talk on speaker for about 3 hours, and then we would and then get up, and I'd bang a Bang Energy, and at 5:30 work out in my garage, and like, let's go, baby. I mean,
and that's really how we did it, I mean,
it's tough.
Like he said, we both had jobs. We respected our employers. We didn't want to use a bunch of company time. That's not us. That's against everything that we believe in. So we would literally go to work, talk on our lunch breaks occasionally, and other than that, we worked our full-time job, both with 2 kids, or one on the way, and your point with one. But yeah, it was definitely a full schedule. And
you said it was time, and I know we jumped again, but to go back that time, I mean, you only have 24 hours in a day, and to use that, to use that efficiency, and you can be as efficient as possible, you still run out of time.
Just like my old,
using it to the max.
Like my old coach Jerry Nettles used to say, time management. When that's what really separates the men from the boys. It's time management, getting every second you can out of that clock, and we sure did.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, squeezed it. I mean, wasn't really watching shows. I mean, it's not,
I mean, we
sacrificed some things that aren't
right. It's
priorities.
Changing diapers on a conference call. Yes, sir. We were using every second, but I mean, it makes you appreciate it that much more when you get through it. Because there's an end to everything. You know that it's all for an overall goal, and being uncomfortable for a little while, is it worth that? Absolutely. So
you got that fire burning in you too.
That's right. I think both of him and I have. If there's anything we see eye to eye on, is motivation. There is no lack of motivation between the two of us, and our wives included. So that being something that we identified immediately with each other, and understanding, hey, we're going to do what it takes if it kills us. That's it.
Perfect.
And that's right.
Well, how'd you guys hash out the name then?
Yeah, so the name. So I was 100%. I was like, I don't want our name associated with the company.
Yeah.
Because when I hire someone, when we hire someone, our team hires someone, I don't want them to associate Gilbert Lee necessarily with the company. I want them to be able, because when I think of someone's name, I think of association of you working for them versus them working for a company. If that at all makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
And so my whole thought was, I want to, and I like this one. I don't know if I like the word like elevate. There's so many different meanings you can take from the word elevate, whether it's elevating others, elevating, being a top of in the best, being, take it spiritual as far as elevating and where that points to. Anyways, I like things that have a lot of meaning behind it, and you may not be able to pull it from immediately. So, with that being said, what I learned very quickly was everyone's used every name possible in a company. I was like, Elevate Construction. Okay, there's 17 of them, and they or whatever it is, right? And
whatever the number
is. There's like there's no URL associated with that, and it was like, so we would come up with names. And I'm like, I had this idea. I mean, I had it from I had it being able to relate to me from a spiritual standpoint, a business standpoint, a personnel, an employee standpoint. I was like, this is good. I mean, we might tweak it, but I'm like, again, it didn't make it much further than me doing a little Google search, and there was already. So,
dang.
But I kind of felt it a little differently. Me personally, I feel like when your name is associated with something, that makes it that much more special. I mean, what do you have more than your name? And that's really what it comes down to. Is when you've got a business that is associated directly with your last name, and that's what's at stake essentially. Then it doesn't get much more special than that, or much more at stake. So that's kind of where we ended up settling on, was we wanted that association with we're all in. This is us. This is our family.
We're the ones. I mean, we're sacrificing a lot.
Yeah,
So.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
there was only one other.
Right, there's a
Pasadena,
shameless plug. There's a photographer in New York with the same name.
I think it's a California welding company,
Oh yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, good to
So-
go.
But
I think we're-
How'd you guys design the logo? Was it just based off the name?
So
PDF editor between the two of us.
Yeah.
1,000 times.
Yep.
Just editing small iterations
Looking at
a
it,
time.
and so if you look, again, I mean, we're talking about getting in the weeds of how we wanted to do things and how we wanted just to be different.
This is the struggle of most business owners: the name and then the logo.
Yeah,
The name and the logo.
And we wanted ours to tie to several different things. We wanted to have the shape tied to a hard hat sticker. We wanted the ability for
Marketability. It had to be marketable.
Well, I was going to name off just kind of several elements, not only our hard hat stickers, but our branding for our trucks and any kind of stationery. We wanted that logo to be somewhat cohesive through all of those. And believe it or not, that's actually very difficult to do, to find a shape that you can put on a quarter panel of a truck, as well as a hard hat, as well as it be your primary logo, and it not be moved around 5 different ways and look like it's supposed to look. There's a common theme to it, essentially, without having 5 different logos that say the same thing.
So I think the first question was, okay, we have a name, we like it, we have the Gilbert plus, the plus sign Lee, just to change it up a little bit, and okay, so we've got a name. Now how can we, because we talked about Gilbert Lee Group, or do you use group, construction, firm, contractor, and we went through all of that. And then of course, as you know, as any, is the association or the tags associated with the name. When someone's looking for a construction firm or construction or general contracting firm, guess the word they're going to type in? Probably construction.
Yep.
So there's a lot to do.
Dominate that keyword.
That's right.
So thinking about it from, literally all angles and taking that time, and it wasn't like, okay, we've got to have something like next week. No, it was like, hopefully we'll have something in a few months. And being able, this was a 1-2 year process that, when it all happened, people were like, oh, do you even have a logo? And it's like, yeah, we're, it's not like we decided like, hey, we're going to, forget this. I'm going to go start my own thing and just... No, it was very methodical.
Yeah.
So with that, if you go to see a lot of construction signs, a lot of them are in the portrait. So a lot of them are all 4x8 is typical construction sign, and a lot of them are vertical. So with that, with the vertical, they usually fill it all up, and it's very block. It looks like almost looks like someone did their sign with a Sharpie. It's very blocky.
Yeah.
And if that's even a word, but you get the deal. And so how can we add a little finesse? How can we be different? So we looked, we tried to find and look up every contractor, or at least the people that we know are going to be our competition, and those also who aren't going to be our competition, who are already a very successful company. So I think it's important to mention that not only are you getting and looking at your competitors, but you're looking at people who've well surpassed and have already reached that level of success, and understanding why they did what they did. So with that, we kind of came with an oval circle shape in order to just, again, be different and allow it to be something that can be transferred to a hat, transferred to a shirt, and just be, we're kind of going for the clean and crisp look, right?
That's right.
So that's kind of how we came up with it.
That's good.
Made a few things with it. One of our big business mottos that I think gets lost probably in, I think many people lose sight of simplicity in business because of the desire. I think everyone really wants to do well, but I think you can
overcomplicate things very quickly.
Lose simplicity as far as you operate. And being able to ensure we keep that from anything from our logo. I'm kid you not, from our logo, the way we outline emails, the way we outline agendas, the way, anything you can think, if it's not I read something the other day, and it's like, if you can't explain it to a third grader, then it's already too complicated.
Yeah.
And so having that, we got to keep it elementary, got to keep it simplistic. We, if we can say it in 6 sentences, if we can take 6 sentences and put it in 6 words, that's how we need to communicate. Efficiency. Going back to my, my brain. Efficiency. My time is worth something. The client's time is worth something. And if I can be more efficient with my time, that leaves more time for my job to get done quicker, which allows me more time with my family.
Yeah.
And to kind of give a shout out during while we're talking about branding, Ashley Buck worked with us.
Design.
Yeah, she did a great job helping us out with that. We came to her with our conceptions and our conceptuals of what we wanted, and she kind of helped us put it into reality and did a great job on our website.
GilbertLeeLLC.com.
Yeah, and really took her time with us. I mean, we drug her along for a good year.
Yeah, she may have.
And she was just chipper and happy through the whole thing. So
probably could have charged us a little bit more.
But
we're grateful for all the people that have helped us get to.
She was wonderful. She really was wonderful. So really happy with that.
Good to go, man. And that's, like I said, a big deal for all businesses, or most businesses, is figuring out that business name, your logo, your website, getting all that stuff going, and that can be a real troubling time as you try to finagle that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
it took us a year. All said, it took about a year for us to get all of our logos pinned down, all of our stationery, all of our branding, our colors that we wanted, our signature color palette. I mean, we went very deep into it and wanted to do it the right way, and it took about a year.
Yeah. A real quick question for you guys, and for the listener may not know exactly how a construction general contractor or firm typically operates, right? So can you guys step us through, like, if you get a project, let's say it's a commercial project, so you guys are hired, you got to design it, you got to build it, there's a lot of subcontractors going, like, how does that process work?
Yeah, so I'll give it kind of what we're seeing right now in the industry. So right now, we have about 10 projects on my whiteboard that we're kind of keeping track of. Probably 75%, if not almost all of them, is clients that have come to us or have heard about us. Obviously, again, we're a newer company, but have heard about us and say, okay, I want a new hardware store.
We call that negotiated work.
So
when they come to you and they say that?
Yes,
that's what
because you're negotiating with the client yourself.
Okay.
So they come to us, hey, I would like to use you, or at least I think I would like to use you.
Yeah.
I have a business, or I want to start a new business, and that's all I got.
And most
that's what they say.
And most yet again don't know the process, just like you were touching on earlier.
Yeah.
So we kind of hold their hand and guide them through the process of the 3 major parts that we like to break it down to, which is if you're going through land acquisition in order to set up your building or whatever,
process.
That's right. We take them through a due diligence process to ensure that land is right for them, for what they're trying to construct or put on that property. That takes them through the zoning process and all that on into
approval of what this building is going. The county approves this building to go there.
A conceptual schematic, essentially, allowing them. That's right, and that goes into geotechnicals and hey, if they want to build a 5-story building there, you got to make sure of what it's going to take to do that, and you don't want to buy bad dirt and then try to do something like that and cost them a ton of money. So
this process you're talking about, the testing, the zoning, happens before they actually acquire the land.
So
it should happen.
It should,
right.
and so right now we're in the process for a hardware store, and we're going through. He goes, hey, I want you guys to do everything. I'm putting my trust in you. And Justin, this is a relationship that he had. So we ran them through. These are the folks that we want to bring on, the design entities. We want to ensure that we can get a preliminary layout, make sure that this layout fits your needs as a business owner. Then from there, we look at that, we get that, and then we can say, okay, we know the building is going to roughly be at this location. And our civil engineer, he said, okay, we know that you're going to have a retention pond for for that. Let's lay that over here based on the overall lay of the land. If the high side is on the left side and the low side's on the right, most likely we're going to put the pond on the low side, because in order to move all that dirt, it costs money.
Yeah.
And we can put a lot of numbers on a construction project pretty good as far as it relates to the construction of a building.
Mm-hmm.
Those are relatively firm to a degree, but what's always the big question mark that really drives property and the acquisition of property is the dirt, is the soils.
Is it a balanced site? How much do you have to cut? How much do you have to import or export? Or it's no little numbers most of the time.
Are you going to sink? Can I build a building on can I clear the trees and build a building, or do I have to clear the trees, take out 2 feet of fill, which on a 5-acre site could be hundreds of dump trucks, and for all those out there, dirt ain't free. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And we always try to help our clients, especially on the development side for us, because we do, we are developers as well, really looking at his overall goals and where he wanted to be. So we had additional lease square footage factored into that within the schematic to allow him, once he's done building this building, he can step over to the other side of the parking area and build another building that will therefore pay for his building indefinitely through another lease. So yet again, we like to look at everything through all lenses to ensure that we're doing what's best for our clients. And
with that is really,
with an overall, large goal in mind in the short term and long term.
And with that success and those abilities to see things in different perspectives goes all the way back to your team. And I say team as in not necessarily members who are employed by Gilbert Lee Construction, but the team members that you have, you work with from a geotechnical standpoint. It could be a civil engineer, an architect. Having those, I always refer to them as team members. And like today, I was speaking with an architect today. We would love to be able to team with you once we go to the upstate.
Yeah.
And using that is, we know that we don't know everything, and being able to, again, to be vulnerable and to know and to accept that is very important to our business. And so, but finding those people and those other
and knowing the right person
that
that does know it.
Correct. And that is very, very important. And knowing that there's a true value, and that, hey, we value you. We want to make sure we pay you timely. We want to make sure that we're putting our trust in you because you are the expert in that.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I think that gets lost often, and just from the feedback that has been communicated to us.
And setting up the right team per project specifically for that. You might have one civil engineer that prefers multifamily. You might have one civil engineer that prefers logistics or smaller projects. So knowing everyone's strengths and weaknesses when it comes to your design teams as well, and that kind of brings us into the second aspect of that kind of three ring, which is the design portion. So putting together those design teams specific for the project at which you're taking part in is huge. It's everything.
You're not going to put in an architect that's ideally tilt panel and 200,000 square foot industrial, and then have them do your restaurant.
Correct. Yeah. Or your museum. You need someone who is more tailored to that specific job at which you're designing. So. And we do bring in, additional designers sometimes. They're, yet again, taking all the due diligence into reflection when you're doing all the design and just putting together the right team when it comes to that initial design process.
Yeah. And then once that design's complete, we'll be able to put preliminary numbers, we'll try to put preliminary numbers as early as we can.
Right.
Sometimes we like to try to at least offer something in the due diligence period and say, here's your property value plus your projected building cost.
That's right.
So then you can budget, whether that's you getting, some kind of approval or beginning those conversations with whomever you're borrowing money from. and then going to the design, like Justin said.
Start to narrow it down and start to supply them with VE options, which is value engineering, during the design process to help them hone in on their particular budget for their particular project.
If we continue to design where it's a little bit, again, to put it in layman's terms, is if we're designing and the budget continues to grow with the design, which often it does, because, I need this, and this. Well, you didn't mention that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we may have to look at doing X, Y, Z to the building to save you money. We might have to look at shingles versus a metal standing seam roof. And
Or
being able
a
to,
combination of both, or looking at all those design aspects that where you're still getting the overall look, you're still achieving the overall goal of the building from an aesthetic point of view as well as a functionality point of view, and you're doing it not necessarily for the cheapest but the most efficient way,
Right.
Because everyone has a budget, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then that kind of brings us into the third.
Yep, construction, the actual construction of the project for us. It's funny, and I keep going back to your question. What are the challenges? What are the challenges of starting a company? Well, was Justin and I specifically and always in was the construction of a project. So everything that we've been doing, not to say is uncomfortable. I enjoy it. I kind of like getting in all the weeds and getting into the very fine details. But to us, which is funny, is you actually become a profitable company and are able to pay the bills when you're actually doing the construction of the project, which is what we are 100% in our past focused on, and that's what we were good at.
Yeah.
And so we've done everything. Essentially, the least thing we've done is the thing that we would consider we were the best at where we were prior. So all the experiences that we've been gaining and all the just the knowledge and the relationships that have continued to grow are things that we are technically probably the least experienced in, and that's been to see the success in the front end, and finally we're about to have a crazy next year. We're like, great. I mean, and I take it for, a grain of salt. I say the easy part very lightly, very, very lightly, because it is very difficult as far as the construction of a project, but that is what we are most familiar with. So to be able to get to that point on, 5-6 projects next year is...
And you got to think between the two of us...
Makes us jacked up, man. I drank 4 Jockos. That's how I get it.
And when we say comfortability like that, I mean, between the two of us over the past, decade, I'm a little older than you, but, almost 20 years, we put over $250 million worth of work into place, you know. So it's no small feat, to do hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work over the years, essentially, that we've been a part of.
Yeah.
And either, was the, construction superintendent on-site superintendent or the PM
and everything that we were a part of.
That's right. So now that it's funny that's where we're obviously the most comfortable. So now when it comes to actually doing the work, that's where it's like, okay, well, we know this.
Yeah, I know how to.
This is where we come from.
If I can do it as an employee and be very motivated to do my job well, you better believe that obviously, as an owner.
Yeah.
And exactly. Most owners can't say that. Most haven't picked up a broom, let alone been the person putting a $30 million job, putting the work in place. So we feel like those are huge benefits for us because we relate directly to the guys that are going to be working with us on the team.
Yeah.
We know their struggles. We know what they go through. We know what it's like to not be home for 13 months working on a project.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to be different and better, know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that morale directly goes into, like I said, the core values, passion, or passion being one of them is, paid employees are also passion employees. And we could go on a whole topic of what that means to us, but knowing that buy-in and, what would take that person from being a good employee to a great employee, and knowing that, is it a bonus? Is it incentive on the project? Is it because construction is lucrative, and there's always for me being on the side of the project management and 100% dealing with the budget and providing breakouts, details, change orders, and seeing that bottom line, understanding how much money I've had made for previous firms, if you could spread some of that wealth and give that to your employees, and I'm not even talking about a bunch, the motivation and the passion that can come with that. I mean, if you're able to, and I hate to heap on just the financial standpoint, but especially in today's world when, a pound of chicken from Publix, which I kid you not, I saw, like, if you get, maybe the grass-fed and all that and the organic and non-steroid, it's like $8 a pound.
Yeah, people can't eat feelings.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Putting your money where your mouth is what gets people's attention, and it gets their loyalty. And obviously they want to work in a good place, but making sure that all those things align, as well as them not having a glass ceiling like we had, and being able to excel and know that the harder they work, the more money they're going to make.
That at the end of the day, I mean,
huge incentives. That's
what more could you? I mean,
it's getting away from probably the traditional pay structures that are industry. Creating your own style of pay structure.
We have reset that whole facet in our business,
and we hadn't really hit on that, but that's something that we're trying to change pretty drastically, because we know. I like to use. I love one-liners in my garage gym.
Yeah.
I started
a bunch of one-liners.
I got a mirror in there, and man, I should have taken a picture, but. I mean, I've got all kinds of...
When you go home, take a picture, send it to me. I need some one-liners.
A lot of Eric Thomas, if you ever listen to him.
I don't think so.
He's a motivational speaker. He grew up in Chicago. He was homeless for a little while, and now he's one of the top motivational speakers in the world.
Nice.
So
you know him? Yeah, he's good to go.
Dude, it gets me going, baby.
Yeah.
All over YouTube.
Yeah,
I love it, man.
I
get them in the morning when I'm doing my morning routine. I'll get my...
You'll get your morning text?
Yes, sir.
With the one-liner?
Absolutely.
One of the... I love them. Money is so essentially our financial stability will just be a byproduct of what our company does. Also, I want to be, another quick thing is we're a construction company, but I want people to associate us with their community involvement and then think of us as a construction company. Right. And kind of really just, I forget that Justin, Stephanie, Haley, Brendan, I forget that they're a construction company. They're involved. I see them in the community, but then, what do they do? That's what I want people to, I want them to first set us with doing something to better people, and then, And
it's not that other companies aren't doing that.
Correct.
And we don't want to ever trash any other company or anything like that. Everybody does what they do, and a lot of them do a lot of good. But personally, we want to affect our community locally and to the individual level. It's one thing to give your money to an association, and that's great. How about we buy a car for a family that needs it, though?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah. How about we directly affect someone's life, and
versus putting it in a drop in the bucket, which again still allows
it's
people,
a great thing, you know.
But if you're really connected to those individuals and you're really able to help those individuals, I mean, especially in your line of work, dealing with individuals directly, I can only imagine. And then the connection with someone and an animal, their dog and everything. I mean, that is like people's child, and to be able to probably get these people to a comfort level with that is life changing.
Yeah.
And so to be essentially be able to have the people that we impact and be able to have conversations with them directly. I think that's what really, I mean, that
and work directly with local nonprofits to do that, to pay someone's rent, to help someone out.
JSL, and then the beacons of
absolutely. Work with the beacons. We do mentorships at Austin Bailey and DuBose Middle, and we try to put our money where our mouth is. Get out in the community, be very involved in it, and really change people's lives for the better. Pay someone's rent, and set a tithe. That's a certain amount of our income per year that we're going to do that with, and we're going to do that every year. And that's going to be a big part of
whether that's through individuals, whether it's to families in need. That's our if we focus our success on something that's bigger than ourselves, we know that based on what we believe in, we know that everything else will take care of itself. If we focus something on that's changing people, then we know, and obviously we do our best at our jobs and construction, and that if we continue to focus on that, but our overall arching goal is to be impactful, we know that everything else will come with it. We know that we're gonna get jobs, and we know we're gonna get projects somehow, some way if we're busting our can, and then that's our focus.
Yeah, if you focus on helping other people,
success.
That's always kind of been my thing too. Is just help people.
Yeah,
if you focus on helping people, then
success is a byproduct.
It will flow.
That's right.
The business will flow. Like the people that need you or hiring you are gonna flow in if you're helping people.
I hear you're pretty busy, so
we stay pretty busy.
Yeah, I hear you do a great job.
So and I think that goes a lot with Canine Revolution and a testament to that similar structure. And I think we probably see a lot as far as the structure of a company, and it can relate a lot based on what we do and what we believe in, and you know.
And y'all did the same thing. You're kind of rewriting the rule book, and that's what we set out to do, and we kind of look at you guys have done very similar. You know, you did it how you wanted to do it and how you thought it should be done.
One thing I heard whenever I was starting up this business was you need people to know you, like you, trust you. I'm sure you guys have heard the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like, how do you get people to know you? Well, I've never really been one big on social media, but whenever I was about to shut it down too, then I started up my business, and I'm like, well, people got to know me. So I got to post stuff on social media.
You got to get outside your comfort zone. I'm very much, I'm not I'm one of those share what's been shared kind of guys,
I'm the 6 post a year. It's wife's birthday, my daughter's, maybe some Christmas, and maybe if we go on vacation. And
I share when the Braves do well. I'm
like a 6 post a year kind of guy.
I've seen you guys posting some of your wife's, because your wife, Brennan's wife, does some cooking or baking.
Yes,
I don't want to say the wrong word. Baking.
Yeah.
She kills.
She does some baking as well.
Yeah,
but I've seen Justin's kids on Instagram doing their sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how people get to know you. You know what I'm saying? And then also just being out in the community, like you guys said, like one thing we do is we'll go out to community events with dogs because we need to train the dogs, but also we like communicating and intermingling with people, and hopefully can provide value to them, because they're like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? Like, oh, this is what you should do with your dog. That's what you should do with your dog. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we provide some impact to them, and then they can trust us just because we're around, we're talking to them. They see us, our post on the social media, because everyone's on social media.
Absolutely.
So like you got to have
we
that
plan
presence
on being
there,
whether you want to be or not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a necessity.
But like those three, knowing you, liking you, trusting you, those things are big on the community involvement, like what you guys are saying. And if you're like expanding outside your local community, like you said, hey, when we get to the upstate, you know what I'm saying? Like expanding from there. You know what I'm saying? Getting people around the state, around the country to know you, like you, trust you. And then as the people that you help grow, the customers that you've helped, building that hardware store, building that heritage center, guess what? Word of mouth spreads real fast. You know what I'm saying? And if you're that person that's helped people, it spreads like fire.
Well, it's already happening, man. Yeah. It's crazy.
Spreads to Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. How complicated is it for you guys to do jobs that are like cross state lines?
The complicated part is just ensuring that we have the management in place in order to correctly and do a good job and having someone to travel. At the end of the day,
we're fortunate enough to have that. Yeah. We do have a superintendent that is just a prime pick, that we have him, and we are so fortunate to have someone like that that's young, very knowledgeable, graduated from App State with a construction management degree, great superintendent, has been for a long time, ready to travel.
I was about to say that travel is a big deal, man.
What we try to do,
he wants to get after it.
Yeah, but what we try to do though is, if you're willing to do that for us, and we're going to ensure that
we'll take care of you, obviously.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day,
he's a special guy, bilingual. I mean,
oh, nice.
Just
That's a whole nother.
Couldn't ask for anything more. Just a really special hire there. Really think a lot of him. But we're going to ensure that he's very well taken care of, and he knows it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just
to the point he was telling you.
Yeah, to kind of stop. You don't need to do all that right now.
He's
He's
like,
telling you to slow your roll down. You know.
Yeah, we're like, no,
Yeah.
we're like,
He's just one of those guys that is just such a part of the team,
Yeah.
and wants to be part of the team.
helped us put our sign up.
Yeah, helped
Nice.
us put before he was ever employed here. You know,
Oh, nice.
wanted
Yeah.
just really relishes in anyone's success. You know, just a very positive person. And you don't have to buy me a truck, man. No, it's like, no, you're getting a brand new truck, bro. Like that's and it's going to be yours.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of looking at some of those incentives, and yet again, kind of another rule we kind of wrote separately. You know, for us, you know, we want our guys to own their trucks after so many years. So we kind of wrote that into our rules as well. You know, if you take care of a truck and you've got a boy that's 16 years old, and we have a certain amount written into a job that goes to a truck allowance for our individuals, and your truck's paid off in 5 years, guess what? Have it.
You know, because at the end of the day, just
Give it to your
in
son,
any
you know?
business, the numbers are worked into whatever the project is or whatever you do.
Yeah.
The numbers are, you know, you're not coming out of pocket to provide X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Whether it's a truck allowance
Yeah.
or
So
a company truck or whatever the situation is, you have to have a budget line item
Right.
in there for your superintendent
To
to travel.
operate.
So
It's
so it's in there.
It's
Right.
an operating
Right.
cost that's going to be in there for eternity,
Yeah.
and that's very the norm for the general contracting world is superintendents typically have vehicles.
That's right.
So what the difference is instead of when that vehicle becomes, let's just say, a value of $12,000, what we would do is, you know, most companies, what they do is then it gets to X amount of miles or years and it's traded it in.
Traded in. Good.
What we are trying to hope incentivize is, one, hey, we want to keep that employee. There's an incentive at the end if you stay X amount of years.
And
then-
you take care of your vehicle.
and obviously if they're driving in a vehicle that's a representation of us, they're going to be more apt to take care of it if there's the ability to
Keep it. Yeah.
And then especially if you have kids, you know, or not kids, but being able to earn, you know, that allows you to, and you break it down, okay, well, they're earning an extra $2 or $3 grand each year if they stay with us and take care of that.
Yeah.
That's really nothing. I mean, at the end of the day,
It is a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of a
so
$15 or $20 million job.
Yeah.
You know?
you know, so understanding that and saying, okay, yes, of course, you know, they've been a good employee for 5 or 6 years. A $2 or $3 grand over the life of that they've worked here. Yeah, they've earned that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet again, not speaking badly about any other company, but we worked places where that was never thought. You know, that would have been a big deal.
Well,
you
that's I would say no one does. I don't know anyone who does that.
know? Well, I
I've
know,
never
but
heard of that.
just even translating into bonus and incentives and other, you know,
Yeah.
where such small percentages of these humongous jobs that you're doing that take so much of your time and so many. There was a time where I worked over 240 something days straight without a day off.
Holy cow.
As a superintendent, you know.
Was this traveling or was this local?
It was traveling. It's just one of those things to where you
That's
look
hard
at
on the
that.
family, too, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a newborn daughter at the time.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you look at how such a small percentage is actually factored into the job for some of that, and what you get in the end. Why wouldn't you do that for the guys that are doing that for
that
you?
just made you $1 million.
It's a no-brainer.
Or whether 500, 600. You know and the whole thing that we're
You need to
looking
be dropping huge incentives to them for them to want to do that. Not only for employee retention, but just for their overall happiness in
Taking
life.
care of people.
Well, what's your goal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basic
Well,
taking care of people.
Yeah,
You want if you have a side business or something you want to do, how can we help you? We want you to stay here. We want you to be happy. We want you to be a professional and excel in your job and absolutely kill it. But on top of that, we want you to achieve your goals in life.
Yeah.
You know, what are your hopes and dreams? You know,
Is it to be with us forever? Is it to hope that you get the confidence and the ability and the knowledge to do something to where you can, again, if most likely if someone leaves and they go to start something, that's a privilege, and that's not a, you know, obviously if they're, you know, you hope that they're not like, you know, forget you, I'm going to directly be your competitor. That's a whole different ballgame, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we can help people achieve something or allow them another type of freedom in their life to where they can enjoy. If we're able to go on a nice vacation, I hope they can too. I don't want to pay them the minimum.
Yeah.
And then they're it would be nice, but I can't afford X, Y, Z. And obviously there's limits to all of that. But the hope is that we can ensure that we can do whatever we can to make it the best that it can be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys ever do any type of professional development with your team? Like maybe you guys do, budgeting discussions like personal, or long-term investments or anything like that.
Absolutely. So that really ties into our overall kind of arching plan with the development of our employees. Not only are they a part of all the discussions when it comes to the percentage for a company update of where jobs sit, what's the percentage that this is going to happen, what's the profit percentage on the, that's a group discussion among the entire company.
Yeah.
Aside from that, all goals are put, yet again, it goes back to the transparency. It's really easy when everyone's on the same page because everyone knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
There's no level of BS with anything. We're all in it together and we all know the same information.
Yeah.
Well, and everyone knows, whether you tell someone or not, they know. I mean, being a part of, other companies and looking at construction, I mean, if you're managing the budget, you obviously know what the job's making. It's the owner knows. It's no hidden number. It's no, a standard fee could be anywhere from 3%, 5%, 7%, typically in the commercial world, depending on the overall volume of work that's being completed and put in place.
Yeah.
So there's no shock of like, wow, we're making X, Y, Z. Yeah, of course you are, because everyone knows that. So,
but it's not always translated down to the superintendent per se, you know.
Right.
And I always go back to that because obviously that was the role I had for so many years. A lot of places that we've worked in the past and companies we've been a part of, until someone walked on your job, December 20th and handed you a check, you didn't know if you were getting a bonus. You had no idea. It could be $1,000. It could be $15,000. It could be non-existent. So letting them be able to prepare themselves for that and allocate those funds and know what's coming, that helps prepare a family, and it helps them plan ahead.
Santa Claus isn't free, and being able to plan, and you want to plan, you want to be able to do things with your family, or family or no family, you want to be able to plan and do something with that, or whether it be savings, or I can invest, or I can go take a trip with some buddies, or for some of the younger folks, but
and just not having some absurd level of uncertainty when it comes down to it for no reason at all. You know, I mean, just planning it correctly, knowing that up front, knowing what incentives we want to put on that, and we can get very deep into that, a certain percentages per job that we're putting into pools like that, but knowing that and bringing everybody on the same page from origin,
it's at stake.
Yeah,
if you got something in stake at it, then obviously, football team, the NFL just started, and college football, they're not just playing because they enjoy it. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not just playing, oh, I really like football, I'm just going to continue to play. They're playing they're playing to be the best, to win their division, to win the championship. And obviously, it's obviously for the NFL, it's a job for them. But they're not just doing it and going through the motions. You better believe, because then they're going to get kicked to the curb. So having those goals set aside from the very beginning, I think, in my opinion, whether it's sports, any kind of business in sports, to me, I can find some kind of common ground. And, taking that quote from Bear Bryant, and, everyone comes to play the football game, but being able to set those goals and achievements and what you want to do. It can be done in any business.
Yeah, if you're a quarterback, you're taking care of your linemen.
That's right. They're protecting you.
That's right.
Old Chad and I had a few. So I was a freshman, and Chad was a senior. So I got pulled up to the varsity team, and
that's how good Brendan was.
Oh yeah.
I was like a whole 140 pounds. Soaked in
We
wet.
were all small back then.
Yeah. And
you thought you were big and bad though when you're in high school,
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, Chad and I got a few plays together. I remember a few. Brennan, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. Let's go.
Oh, he gets after it now.
Yeah.
I know he can snap into that
Well, I hadn't
Jocko
seen Brendan
Fuels.
I haven't seen
right.
Brendan in a while, and when I first saw him again after I moved back from California, because that's where I was stationed at in the Navy, he was in the Bold Fitness. That's where I first saw you. Remember that?
Oh, yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that in the
yeah.
morning? It was like one random morning. I just started going there. You're in there with Coach Mack, one of our old
okay.
football
Yeah.
coaches.
Which
Jack dude.
Yeah, no, we still keep in
And-
touch, and
Yeah.
not to get off
Yeah.
kilt, but he may be looking at a different avenue,
Oh, really?
and one of our things.
You're bringing him on board.
We'll
He's a good leader.
Well, so
He's a good
That's
so
we
what can
identified
you-
that in about 2 seconds. That's right.
Oh, you met him?
Oh, dude,
Oh, yeah.
what
Yeah.
an awesome guy.
When
Just-
you first saw him, his biceps almost smacked you in the face, didn't they, bro?
He's not as big as he
Oh,
used
he's not
to
as
be.
big anymore.
No, he's still a big scary guy.
Okay.
But
Dude's legit.
just
Yeah.
embodies everything we're trying to bring to this company.
Yeah.
You know,
so we feel like, and I think you could probably agree with this, is if we can find the right character
Mm-hmm.
and the right traits as a person, we can teach
I can teach
construction.
You train him the skill
We can-
set. You're
yeah.
good to go. Yeah.
And so another hire of ours is not involved in construction at all, but what we've identified is what his core values are, what his character is, and from him being recommended to us, we can teach the rest. Is there a learning curve? Sure, but if we're saying that we can take kids out of college and train them,
there's also no bad habits.
Exactly.
So there's no-
that is a big deal.
There's no relearning.
Yeah.
And that's twice as hard as learning the first time.
Oh yeah.
but
you
if
take
you-
someone that's been working in the industry for a while, and then you bring them to your team, and you got to retrain a bunch of stuff. That's gonna be a struggle. Most likely.
and you don't know their character,
Right.
You think you do,
Right.
but then the guy,
You take some fresh guy out of college or high school, even train him
Sure.
up to whatever you need.
That's right.
Or you take a guy like Coach Mack, for example. This dude's been a leader his whole life.
That's
You know,
right.
Yeah.
He's been in the Army, in leadership positions, leading on high school football. He's been putting back in, giving to the community in his
Church,
coaching.
yeah.
Yep, and all that kind of stuff. And he's got kids himself, so of course he's leading.
And it's
them.
just a model
But-
of character.
Yeah.
He exudes that type of,
Yeah.
that type of person you want representing you and your name, and you want him to be a part of something like that. That's the kind of people we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, kind of along those same lines, skilled labor in the construction industry. Over the workforce, which I'm referring to the workforce as all industries, there's been a major struggle in finding people to actually work, especially since COVID started.
I'm more than happy to take this one. Yeah.
So what have you guys been seeing so far
It's-
with your industry specifically?
over the past 15, 20 years, it's been going down. When it comes to any type of trade specific job, I do feel like now, and my leadership Dorchester class just went to the trade school up towards St. George.
Yeah. You talking about the
I
career
guess-
school or the high schoolers?
Yeah,
Is that
talk
what
about
you're
the
talking
trade
about?
school.
The
Yeah.
high school.
what do they offer, just for everyone listening?
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach Bear, one of my coaches in high school, and he works there now. And Miss Quattlebaum, Jennifer Quattlebaum, she's a part of that organization up there. Great. I mean, absolutely awesome to see what they're doing. They're getting more and more kids every year. I do feel like it's somewhat of a renaissance. Kids are seeing that they don't have to go in debt $150,000 and they can make $30 or $40 an hour as a welder. I mean, there's something that's happening. I do feel like in that regard. And it was really great to see that. I just pulling a couple things from Miss Jennifer. There,
When'd you go up there? Was it this year or last year?
it was last week.
Last
Yeah,
week? Okay.
with our leadership
this
Dorchester
is
class.
a recent
Absolutely.
observation. All right.
And they're at capacity, and they are going beyond capacity pretty much every year to where they're adding new core programs, anything from firefighting to welding. They offer like a drafting architectural course now, architectural design. They have cosmetology. They have supply chain engineering, which is basically learning how to inventory and stock and all that. I mean, anything you could imagine when it comes to tangible kind of work, or a diesel mechanic classes.
And these kids, basically, the way I understand it, they go to like their core class in the morning. They go to the
That's right.
career school in the afternoon.
That's
Is
right.
that the way it works? Yeah.
Have
And
you
is
met-
it junior? Is it like freshman, sophomore, junior, seniors that get this thing?
It is
In high school?
and now they're offering it to private school as well can do it. They have one kid that's taken like 5 or 6 different classes. He's in the electrical side. He had already taken heavy equipment operation and
mind you,
was already taking welding. So and they also have it's a pre-class to going into law enforcement. It was awesome to see that. There was kids in every class. They were all motivated. It's stuff they wanted to do, and they know they can make a good living doing it. But just kind of going back to what we had talked about in the beginning, we're doing self-perform work as I did for many years. A guy would leave you in a heartbeat for $1 in a pickup truck, and it was so hard to take, especially, some of those things that we did, let's say copper ornamentals. I trained someone for a year, and they'd leave for an extra $1, and
that's your time you put into them to train them.
Absolutely. And if they would have just told, yet again, kind of, hindsight being 2020, just being so busy trying to get the next job or to do that, trying to do so many things yourself, understanding where they were and maybe, being able to talk to them a little more, you could, hey guys, I'll give you $5 to stay, but not waiting until it got to that point.
Right.
But yeah, it's such an interesting concept to kind of see where that's going, and that there's been so many shortages in true craftsmen for so many years, and people that want to do that kind of work and work with their hands. I'm glad to see it start to come back around. I do feel like you're going to see a return to that over the next 15 or 20 years. I hope we do, in our particular industry. Yet again, we do see a lot of people going toward construction, especially construction management, because it is a lucrative business, as well as the trades. But up until now, there has been kind of a shortage. I do feel like we are not completely not vulnerable, but typically we're fairly safe, especially in our region, and in downturns, we tend to keep moving a little bit, so.
Well, to hit on that though, to Justin's point of saying, we're a little bit okay or comfortable going back to what we discussed was being able to partner with companies.
Absolutely.
Because we are a management company. We manage and we hire subcontractors.
That's what the construction
is
firm or general contractor does. You're bringing everybody to the table.
That is the difference between a general and a subcontractor. And I should clarify that. Me doing what I did for many years, we were a general contractor that self-performed essentially. So we managed the job, we bid the job, we designed the job, but we also we turnkeyed it. We performed all the work as well. Whereas as Brendan and I do now, we are strictly management, where we hire the particular
entity or
entity,
subcontractor, roofer,
that's right,
flooring, drywall,
to do those specific jobs, because there's quantity with us. There's so much going on. You've got
to have that team leader. I mean, that's essentially what we are. We're the team leaders to ensure that there's no there's always gray areas. Ensuring that those are minimized or completely addressed.
Well, as you guys are searching for like a roofer, for example, obviously you have your connections, you have your team, and but is that where the struggle is? Is like the roofer has half of his people left. We're going on unemployment because of COVID or something.
Now that is a struggle within that community with them. So and yet again, my wife worked in that industry for a long time as well, and doing their onboarding and stuff, she would see that all the time. You get guys that would last a week. Not only do they not understand how hard a work that is, not even speaking specifically to roofing, but there's just not a lot of drive for people to do that kind of work sometimes. And then you have people that see, yet again, that are motivated. They see how much money they can make. They see what kind of opportunities that will bring, and they jump right into it. I think that's an individual character kind of thing. I do feel like there are people to work that want to do it, and that they see where it can take them in their life, in their family's lives. But it's just finding the right person,
finding those people,
because it's not for everybody.
It's
really not. It's not for everybody.
For us so how do we as our company try to minimize that as much as we can? The one thing that we can do, because obviously since we don't employ those folks directly, it's having those connections with using a roofing company per se, but using a company that also treats its employees right.
Absolutely.
So having the connections with companies that are good people, have the good characteristics that align with who we are, and their goals align with our goals. I mean, I couldn't stress how important that is, because it'd be great to manage a job, but if we don't have anyone to perform the work,
right,
we can't do anything. So
right.
having those relationships and aligning ourselves with also contractors is important. It's probably one of the most important, undersold item for anything in our industry is, we manage really well. We used, construction software. Well, that's great. But if my roofer says he's going to be there Monday and he doesn't show up for 2 weeks, versus we have the contact and the relationship with a company to where we can call the owner or call the project manager and get a real-time update and know that it's going to be honest and they're going to do good quality work is the only way we're able to do our job well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of general contracting firms that will typically take the lowest number. Yet again, we're not all about that. We'd rather take
we're not, and
quality
a break
over
on
quantity.
Absolutely.
Well, and we've had that same discussion with there's a
I'll take
gentleman
a
that we're dealing
break on
with
my fee.
From a development standpoint. They came in as a kind of an introductory meeting, and the thought was, he was like, "Hey guys, I'm not going to, really." I'm not the kind of person that's going to mark up your number and try to just beat you down. I was like, and I said, I try not to be as blunt. The way to put this, but if you were going to do that today, I would ask you to kindly leave, because we don't need, and we don't want to work for someone who is like that, and nor do we necessarily, fortunately for us, we're very blessed with a lot of work upcoming, and we don't need that kind of job. And if that's how you want to operate, that doesn't align with us.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if you were to say that, fortunately, I'm glad to hear that you don't, but I would have asked you to kindly leave.
Yeah.
Because it's just not, we have to align ourselves with the right contractors. We want to align ourselves with the right, business owners or the right clients. And I mean, everything has to align. But once you can align all of that, and everyone sees on the same eye to eye, and there's a great communication there, it takes a project very complicated to really making it a smooth, well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to kind of the old contractor, pick one of the three, time, money, quality, and we try to kind of
balance it.
Put that to rest, kind of. We want that delicate balance between all those things. We don't want to go with the lowest number.
Yeah.
We want to go with the best quality for what is fair for that task.
Yeah.
And we really try to hold everything to that. Get a good number, get a good balanced number, as Brendan said, that will give you the best job for your money. And if there's a budget, we'll meet it. That's not an issue.
Or finish. If the finish
Absolutely.
is the client's priority, then we'll make sure that we align it with. And then, again, having those relationships and knowing that.
Yeah.
Okay,
What are your non-negotiables? What are the things you have to see in this job? That's part of just understanding that specific job, and during the process that we put in place earlier, we identify all those things.
I know contractor A will always give me probably my best value. But if we're doing something that's a little bit, a little bit
specialty finish might be out of his wheelhouse.
Then we know, and knowing that, realizing that, having those relationships there is no.
It's critical.
Yeah.
That way you can puzzle piece the job to your client.
Exactly.
That's right.
But if you're just picking and choosing and selecting someone just because they're the lowest number, then you as the client are not getting what you want, and then that frustration is just a trickle down effect, and then now we're probably beating up on a sub who doesn't have the abilities.
Right. And it would really surprise you of how many GCs run their business exactly like that. Pick the lowest number every time, regardless. And that's, yet again, something we wanted to go completely away from.
Yeah.
Because we talked about engineers and architects having a specialty. Well, every other trade does. And just...
Everything is a specialty, and I feel like in y'all's world,
absolutely.
how you put up the drywall, how you frame it, how you do the concrete, You know,
it's just being very methodical in how you do everything and doing it with purpose and intention. You know, being intentional about every decision you make.
Absolutely. Do you turnkey a package? And turnkey meaning, do you put this entire scope of work into one contractor's hands that may involve something that you could feed to 5 contractors because it will benefit your client more? There's all kind of strategic ways that we look at pricing a job that will benefit our client ultimately. You know, do you do that so you avoid gray areas? You know, do you turnkey it with this one sub to do this particular portion?
Do you pay the premium?
And pay that premium because, you know, at the end, you know,
they'll get it done in a week versus trying to get 5 people, you know, set up and it take 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Because there's a time associated with the duration that's going to take versus knowing the risk.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to those 3, you know, major points when it comes to doing GC work, you know, that I was talking about earlier. When it comes to, you know, what's your time frame, what's your budget, and how quickly do you need it done? You know,
what's you guys' thoughts on college? Because both you guys went to college, right? We just talked about skilled labor, how we need that in today's world. But what's you guys' thoughts of y'all, you know, saying, hey, go to college, or like, hey, let's get into a trade, or hey, get into the industry?
So
What's
funny story.
Thoughts?
Yeah, so funny story with that. One of my buddies who was at Clemson, he was in the engineering, or I think he was a civil engineer, and I think he had almost done 1 or 2 years, and he ended up stopping doing that. His brother was a welder. He ended up doing his 2 years, but when he was doing his 2-year degree per se for welding, or welding school, however you want to put it,
apprenticeship or whatever they call it.
He ended up doing that, and by the time I graduated, he was making $80,000.
Yeah.
And he was 22,
Yeah.
or whatever it was, 21, 22.
And the classmates that he was with probably had $80,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
at least. And so I think it's tough to say, and I hope we can be an advocate for those trade schools, because it's not for everyone. Not every person is. I mean, we went to school with people that many people, they don't need to go to college. Isn't for everyone. I mean, I wouldn't. If I had to go to college again right now, I just can't even imagine going to school class. I mean, so because I was going to choose a 4-year degree, and you best believe I wasn't doing any school after that. So the industry that we were in, you know, 4 years is the max. You know, not a lot of people do a master's, a doctorate, and all that, unless you want to teach. But I think,
or different certificates. You know, I do have to say there is an absolute never-ending continuous learning with this business. It's just like law. It's just like any other profession. You need to immerse yourself in it because it is ever changing. Not necessarily the systems in that regard, but the materials and some of the things you use.
Technology, for everyone at this point.
Absolutely, but from the construction industry, it is ever changing of what you're using, how you're doing certain systems and things that we do. You know, even I went into the construction industry where paper plans were the norm. You know, you got your highlighters, you got your pens, you got your paper plans. That's how you plan it out. And I'm this weird hybrid as a superintendent of where, you know, doing everything on a tablet, I can do it, but I still keep my copy of my half-size plans with my notes on it because that's how I was taught by a guy with a big gray beard, you know. And I can do everything from the tablet, and I'm comfortable doing that. But I also understand that people learn in different ways, and I still do that to this day. You know, I keep my half-size set with my pen notes on it and my highlighter because that's what makes me comfortable. You know. So just like you said, Brennan, with, you know, one kid deciding to go to college as opposed to, it's not for everyone, and I think everyone, you know, identifying where their strong suits are and what they are passionate about may involve college. It may not. You know. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think it's really just helping people understand what's available, and I think that's what's missed. And maybe you want to go to college, but you know, right now it doesn't fit the budget, so maybe an apprentice program is something that's more ideal. Or, you know, but while all the other kids are in college, I mean, you're making $70,000 as an electrician. I mean, I have another friend whose brother, he went to college. He's an accountant, works for Spaywar. His brother decided not to go to school, and he wanted to go into electrical. And he makes a fair living and does well, and it's just he would rather be hands on than sit behind a desk. And I think just identifying what the options are, and parents and those those who have children in their lives are able to help navigate and direct and just know that there's more options. I think that's what's key.
I think that's go ahead.
No, I was saying, yet again, I never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 17. I don't know about y'all.
That's what I was about to say.
I had
I think most kids don't know what they want to do, or they don't know all the different options of what they could do.
That's right.
I
I graduated at 17. I had not a freaking clue what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
I think you're too young.
Of course you are.
You might think you want something, and then you go down that path. You're like, you know what? That's probably not for me.
There's not
and
enough.
Then you go down. That's not for me. You
Yeah,
you
there's
figure it
not-
out eventually.
Yeah, there's not enough life experience. I mean, there's a certain level of, I feel, life experience that translate into who everyone is. You got to have time to find out what you like and what you don't like. I mean,
Well, what do you think a good solution to help kids figure that out is?
The trade school.
the trade school. I
Yeah.
mean,
The trade school, they give them like an orientation, like this is this is that. They let them kind of test out some other things.
Well, I mean, you have the ability to at least try it, and get credit for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a heavy equipment operator, or you think you might like that, hey, you can go sit in front of a virtual training center where you're in a cab surrounded by TV screens, and then go actually test out equipment.
Yeah.
And you can take that for a semester, and if
freaking
you
cool.
love it, you
That's
can
great.
do it. If you hate it, you don't ever have to do it again.
Yeah. Well,
And
the other thing too is I know, like when I was in school, the guidance counselor, they have a lot of influence on the juniors, the seniors, right?
Right.
And back when I was in school, when Brendan was in school, when Ben's in school, I'm sure probably when you were in school, Justin, like, hey, go to college. They're saying you got to go to college. You need to go to college. You're not going to get a good job unless you go to college. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're being fed.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think.
That's why I think
no one mentioned trade school when we were
Right.
graduating.
The guidance counselor, I think they have a big responsibility, and of course it's going to come down to the counselor for that school, but like they have a big responsibility to kind of give more options, open up the door to other things.
Absolutely.
You know? It's like if you weren't going to college, you were kind of like shunned. You know what I'm saying? Or like you were not on the good list.
Or,
you know what I'm saying?
because Ben has always been passionate about filming forever.
Yeah, I avoided it for like 3 years in college. I bounced around different majors, and then I finally.
Well,
But
his college experience helped him.
Yeah.
Learn his skill
Mine
set.
did as well.
You know what I'm saying?
Just a little keynote for everyone out there. I'm a part of Ben's only filming that included someone who was literally on fire. That's it.
Had some,
He was your stunt man.
we literally
Yeah.
lit Brendan on fire.
You might have.
And our teacher was pissed.
My
She-
man, that's what I'm
she had
taking
changed
one
the
for the team.
Obviously, it's locked into your brain.
Forgot
You know
about
what I'm
that, so
saying?
right now-
Yeah, she changed the
That's
syllabus.
awesome.
She said, we got an A. I do remember that. I think it was I think it was actually 99 to be. But she said, I literally gonna have to change the syllabus now. Because what's funny though, thinking about that, getting with Ben, I'm like, Ben, he's obviously gonna be the guy that was putting it all together.
Yeah.
I just was like,
The editor guy.
I gotta give him something that's worth daggone filming. And I think
That's what I gotta do.
we
with him.
we were
Shed.
we were juniors or so, and I was like, okay.
I'm gonna set myself on fire.
I'm like, what is someone?
What's the A factor?
Yeah.
Too locked.
Hey, so if you guys ever need to make a promo video, we can help you out. We can set Brendan on fire.
That's
We'll just relive
Done
the high
deal.
school.
Well, I've learned what not to. I've learned what not to do.
We just need
so-
a fire suit.
Yeah. Well, the thing, yeah. So it was Fahrenheit 451,
Oh, okay. All right.
and the
That
whole
makes
book
sense.
is about it's
Fire.
interesting thing about that is
Yeah.
burning everything. The firefighters set everything
everything
on fire.
on fire. That's what they do. It's like the reverse. Yeah.
Right. So they were. It's almost like the Book of Eli. They were getting rid of all the books.
Yeah.
And they were burning all the books. So I said, Ben, what do you think is a scene in the book? Because what we had to do was a movie trailer for the book. And I was like, what do you think? And it's funny now looking back with where we are today is
Yeah.
what is something that no one else has ever done? And that's like, and here, to be here today, it's kind of
Yeah.
funny how really relative that is to how the thinking was then. So we came up with the idea that no one's probably ever been lit on fire. So, anyways, and then
at least not in high school in front of a camera.
yeah. So and then, funny enough,
On
Cameron-
purpose.
my brother was at the Citadel, and I guess one of the Citadel things is that they would always
Oh,
put
yeah.
nail polish remover or something on
Oh,
their
yeah.
gloves, and
Light
he
'em on
showed me,
fire.
And he's like, oh, yeah, the nail polish remover just burns off out of the glove and it doesn't burn the glove. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
You figured it out.
So, anyways, the fourth time we did it, we put way too much on. And
The fourth time.
So whenever you shoot a video, you got to have multiple takes.
Yeah, we started with let's say like a dot, right? Then a little bit bigger.
We need more. This sounds like our videos today.
I remember literally saying, I was like, hey guys, I think this is too much.
Let's do it.
And it was like,
I think it's perfect.
No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, I had to stop, drop, and roll, which is what I was doing. I was like, I'll do a little stop, drop, and roll, see if it goes out.
Yeah.
And then the one time I was like, I don't think this is gonna get out.
Didn't you have to rip your shirt off or something?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cinched my eyebrows and I had no eyelashes.
That's
Could be
awesome.
good.
That was great. I need to find that video.
Yeah, you do, man.
It sounds like our 4th of July videos. We usually blow something up, and every year it's like, let's do a bigger one than last year.
No, those were
Let's do a
good.
bigger
Well, so
one. Let's do a
speaking of
bigger
4th of
one.
July, I actually got lit on fire by, I'll say, a very, very prominent like billboard
What?
realtor that is around Charleston. I will not name names. Love him still to this day. He's a dear friend. But we were at his house during 4th of July. You reminded me of it during this conversation. And he lit a Roman candle and just pointed at me and was like, you need to run. And it lit my pants on fire. And my pants burned off of me. Yeah, absolutely. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Pantsless Justin running
Hopefully
around.
you're out there. You know who I'm talking about. So
Nothing
if
got
you're listening-
damaged, just other than the pants.
Yeah, it was right on the back of my,
Alright,
right
yeah.
where my knee is, like
Yeah.
is where it kind of caught fire.
Yeah, so you're
But
good.
it burned like, right above my knees down to my shoes on both sides. And I literally was like running out of my pants trying to pat it out. Literally. Anyway, you just reminded me of that.
So Gilbert and Lee have both been on fire.
good times,
Both
man.
been set on fire.
You learn a lot about yourself when you're on fire. I mean,
Yeah, I learned to just use less nail polish remover.
Well, getting back into the construction industry real quick, drones. Drones are an up-and-coming thing. How are you guys seeing this being worked with in your industry? Is it a big deal? Is it not that big of a shift so
it's
far?
a common practice.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
And I will say it came around, 5, 6, 7 years ago. You started seeing them kind of creep in, and now it's almost a must-have.
Yeah, you've got to have that. Mostly for the aerial photos, you can take it to the technology that you see in your typical commercial it's all pretty standard. Obviously, I say obviously. When you get to, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or you're getting to these multi-billion-dollar, the technology on those is probably it's a whole nother level just because the cost of being able to get the BIM model, you can go to and take your iPad, scan a QR code, and then walk on site and then hold your screen up to wherever you want and you can see the whole BIM model.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
until you get to that degree of complexity and that and the overall total cost of construction, you just can't justify it. But when you're talking about, it's got to be over hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And the complexity's got to be there as well. You're not really getting into more than your construction software and your aerial photos and your drone fly-throughs because then you can take drones, and there's some programs that do the drones they'll take certain spots, pinpoints every day, and at the exact same time, and then there's ways that some of these are able to, I think, scan and kind of. It gets a little crazy, man. There's a lot of technology, but for us and your typical, even probably until you're doing $1 billion is probably total revenue. I don't think you're probably seeing much more than anything that we're doing.
Yeah, I'd probably say 50 million and under, kind of the where we really fall into the jobs that we do. In the field, I like to use them for progressive photos. Not only for we do a weekly report every week where we present aerial photographs that show progress, but to me, it's with subs. So I like to. I use it a lot specifically with foundation work and going vertical. I can take pictures of progression from one day to the next, and we can have that tied into the duration within our Microsoft project model that shows, how long they have for each task and how long it's going to take. Let's say our guy doing, our foundation or grade beams or whatever situation that is. And, then, kind of take those and say, okay, you have to do a minimum of this much per day by linear footage or however we're going to track that. But teaching my superintendents to say, okay, you take, one picture per day at 12 o'clock, and then you look and see how much he's done per day, and then you load that into your Bluebeam PDF editor, and you highlight that and put a date with it, and say you did this much for a total of this much per day over a week's time. And let's say the duration of his task is 6 weeks. You can tell within the first few days or a week of whether or not he's going to reach that goal, because you've tracked it through that first week, and you can tell him, or with driving piles, or you can start to relate it to so many different tasks. But it's very easy to sit down with them at our OAC meeting, our owner architect meeting, or with our subcontractor coordination meeting, and I can take those same drawings that I did and the overlays of those drone photos that I've now marked up, in my PDF editor, and put those on a projector and put them up to the whiteboard where we can mark on them within the meeting. And I can say, all right, guys, we got to do something with manpower, because this is your goal. This is how much you're doing per day. That broken down over this duration within our Gantt chart is not going to get you to that goal. We've got to either go faster with the crew we have, or we need to increase manpower or do something different. And there's a lot of factors with that. There could be rain days. There could be, shortage of material. There's all kind of obviously different things that factor into that.
That's a very practical application.
And that is where we try to really involve it on a daily basis. In that regard,
marketing, it's great, and then clients themselves.
It's great in market.
Do you guys have like a drone employee that's Gilbert and Lee guy that operates drones for you, or you subcontract that out too, or you'll do it yourself?
Yeah, we're all capable of using them.
Okay, you got the equipment. You can.
That's right.
Fly them as you need to.
That's right. And we've had them for we've been all trained on them for many years now.
Nice.
And use them well. I will say, yet again, other than kind of that application that I spoke about earlier, but from a marketing standpoint, you're starting to see some more specialized drones in that regard. A bigger job, you're going to use a drone that's a little faster, that's a little more capable. We've gone to more compact drones just because of filming indoors in certain jobs.
And just what the application that we're using it for. We're not going 1,000 feet and doing it.
That's right. And you're
getting into where you really get into the
and
aviation.
They're height restricted now, and there is a lot of that you have to deal with. But unless you're working on a 200-acre site, you don't need a drone that travels at 36 miles per hour and goes 7 miles from your control point and all that. So you're starting to see everything kind of be reined in a little bit on that, and to use very practical drones for the application at which you're using them for on a daily basis.
Gotcha. If someone wants to contact you guys, what kind of projects do you do? Anything, everything, residential, commercial?
So we are a commercial general contractor by trade.
Commercial, industrial.
We can always assist with pointing people in the right direction as far as it relates to residential, but ideally, that we do anything from $1 million, $2 million to $20 million, and that's kind of where it's all relative, because it's all based on the complexity of the job is directly related to the team. So we're not necessarily fit for probably a multi-family project, which probably takes a team of 4 to 5, versus a light industrial or retail, or we're doing 50,000 square feet over in Beaufort, to where that's a very manageable project because of the phases of how it's going to be set, to where that's going to be closer to that $20 million range. So but that's kind of we've done upfits,
but we have experience in hospitals and hospitality. We've done hotels. We have done multifamily. We've done logistics, tons of logistics and warehouse jobs, tilt walls, which is industrial, any type of that facet. We've also done senior living, memory care centers, done a lot of those.
Veterinary.
Retail, some floor and decors,
Vet hospital.
vet hospital. I mean, you name it, we've done it. And
Between both of us, we've done.
So someone can contact you guys if it's not within your realm. You can recommend them
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
someone that you trust
Absolutely.
that has your same values
Exactly.
and stuff like that.
we have some very close-knit residential contractors that we work with that will kind of filter stuff too. That way they're getting a good recommendation and they
Honest,
know that,
yeah.
they're getting a good residential
You're not
contractor.
going to recommend someone to someone that you don't. That you're
Yeah,
not going to,
absolutely.
that doesn't have your beliefs and
That's
your
right.
qualities and characteristics and all that. you know?
Absolutely.
So-
But yeah, our website's a great place to get in touch with us.
Yeah, what's your web? Can you guys say your website real quick? GilbertandLeeLLC.com is what you said.
That's right.
That's right. www.gilbertleellc.com.
Okay, and social medias. Where are you guys at on the socials?
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook.
Gilbert Lee Construction
That's
on
right.
those.
Yep.
What's y'all? Do y'all want people to know your personals so they can know you, like you, trust you?
They're usually tagged in.
Yeah,
Tagged in there. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Lee, Brendan Gilbert, along with our wives. We're all tagged in everything. So.
Yeah. Good to go. Any closing thoughts, guys?
Well, just I will say, just kind of touching on what we were talking about earlier, just the kind of new things you're seeing in construction. I will say what I'm really a huge fan of is the mass timber kind of arise in construction.
CLT.
Yeah,
Cross laminated
and
timber.
What is that? Can you talk us through it real
CLT
quick?
construction is basically, and it came about kind of 2013. Clemson, company out of Alabama is the one that ended up kind of doing the first big one. But you're basically taking timbers and hatching them. You're laying them opposite across from each other, one vertically, one horizontal, and you're making entire floor systems and entire roof systems, beams,
trusses.
and there's so many different. You have NLTs, which are nailed together, which actually typically are historical. You actually saw that, with balloon framing years and years ago. Hundreds of years ago, you saw people building like that. But you've also got, DLTs with dowels now, where they're joining everything with dowels and glue lams. Where typically you'd have those that span. So all those are the same generation of all that. They're all being used as mass timber in lieu of steel or concrete. So these CLTs are basically just individual boards that are joined together in different directions to make entire floor systems that can be craned into place, and they look super awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, so Clemson has a facility that they did recently.
It's the Quattlebaum recreational facility.
That's right.
Yep.
So yeah, if you look that up, if I could do an entire house like that'd be amazing.
I mean, and you can build up to 18 stories with them.
And these are stronger than steel, or they are equivalent to the
equivalent. They have so years ago. I want to say, and I don't want to get this wrong, but they did write a new section of the code to kind of embody this, because they saw it coming as a something that was up and coming that was going to be utilized, because it's renewable. I mean,
and it's a big. So I follow a couple things on LinkedIn, and it seems to be a lot more relevant in Europe. One of the places I follow it seems to be that purely it's all in Europe, but it's a lot. I mean, you're talking about entire walls, not just like a
foot thick, floor systems that are all solid timber.
And they take the pieces of timber and they put it on top of each other.
But you can't tell. Yeah, when you see it, it's
seam them
not
together, but
yeah.
it looks solid.
I urge you to look into it. CLT construction is quite impressive.
Anything built up.
And you got to think, doing a solid timber building up to 18 stories, it has wonderful fireproofing capabilities because of how dense it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Wonderful, soundproofing characteristics. From an audible
insulation. Do you need insulation with it, or does it handle insulation itself?
That's such a. They're just
depends.
You really get into the weeds with some of that, but
the thickness of it would then
Yeah.
then determine the R value required. Then the type of structure then requires the R value.
So what kind of structure is ideal for this, or what kind of
It seems
people are you
a lot of
recommending this
It
for?
seems to be mostly all commercial applications, at least here in the U.S.
Absolutely, but you can use it for really anything.
Yeah.
And it's a faster way to do it. Essentially, it's just
modular, it's like similar to almost a modular structure.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. If you've ever watched the tilt wall building go up, which is a building where you have concrete panels that are just tilted into place off the slab, it's like that, but it's going vertical in that same regard.
It's like Legos.
Exactly, and you're just using these huge timber pieces with connectors that just all fit together, and like I said, they can go up to 18 stories. So
What's the cost benefits? Is there like timber this timber versus steel?
Absolutely. With anything else, it's always a little higher, and then it comes down as it's used more. There's definitely certain benefits that make it very competitive within the price spectrum,
Depending on the structure.
Depending on the structure,
a lot of variables.
That's right.
Absolutely, and then absolutely.
Obviously, if it was way more, if it was cheaper, then people are going to use it.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully as it continues, the technology of it and the demand for it, and obviously if it's a new product, then there's going to be less manufacturers of it, which then they're only located in certain places,
which raises the cost to a degree. But yet again, if you don't need certain other components of the building, because that covers several different. Everything's relative to the structure itself. And I totally agree with Brendan. It's all specific to whatever structure you're designing.
Yeah.
Everything is a thumbprint.
Because if you're making, like, the Clemson facility is a very aesthetically pleasing facility.
Mm-hmm.
So the requirement to do that in steel was probably very costly. But if they were able to go to this entire CLT structure, it may be you don't have to do a lot of finishes because it's very attractive on the exterior. So there's so many things that play in it. I would, if I could do a house in it, I would do it tomorrow.
So if a client comes to you guys, this may be something that you throw at them, like, hey, maybe consider this.
I'd love to do a CLT structure.
Depending on the variables, obviously, but you may say, hey, this is something to consider.
Yeah, we would
here's some options for your build or whatever.
And with some of the supply chain issues, I mean, you were seeing guys for. No one ever used fiberglass rebar, and all of a sudden that poked up, because it was easier to get, and
if you know anything,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Fiberglass rebar.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a rebar out of fiberglass. Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
What the heck?
And
so it's been around for a long time.
So for the listener, a lot of listeners probably don't know. In concrete, the only reason and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going off of my college classes. But in concrete builds, you got rebar in the concrete to provide the strength that it needs to withstand the forces
steel
that are
reinforcement
exerted upon it. So you guys are saying that they're using fiberglass in concrete.
So it's been around for a long time, and the typical application was near within X amount of miles from oceans or salt water.
If you're working directly in a saltwater rich environment, we used it a lot. I've used it
because the steel would corrode
quickly,
and deteriorate.
Absolutely.
So the fiberglass is going to be longer lasting with the corrosion.
And now it's becoming more relevant because
supply issues.
Well, the steel, all the steel's so high.
So
the cost of steel's so high. So it's like, fiber and steel are essentially the same cost. It's a lot easier to pick up a stick of fiber than it is to pick up a steel of rebar by a long shot.
When fiberglass used to be a little higher, and now
because again, people are if it costs more to do that, then you're going to go with the cheap. At the end of the day, everyone has a budget, and they're going to try to. Most people try to build with the cheaper product.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, we could have a whole conversation about that when it comes to market trends translating into actually how structures get built and how the supply chain affects that and everything else in between. But I mean, you do start to see some typical things that you would think were very typical or atypical start to change course. And I mean,
when's the last time you've seen a full CMU building? New structure.
Yeah. I mean, who builds out a block anymore other than schools? You know?
What happened with that? Just the blocks became too expensive, or
labor intensive, the time related to
because you got to lay each one.
That's right.
And then the finish of it, it's not as aesthetically pleasing as maybe a.
Yeah, you got to do that paint on it or whatever they do on it, you know, and you can still
block
see
fill,
them all.
Block fill the whole structure, or put a facade of brick up on top of that. So, I mean, there's like anything else, you see this complete.
We're in
kind of trend to something else.
Brick, the wood that's not the vinyl, so
which
that's the trend, because it's a reusable or cementous product or.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think a lot of character to buildings has completely disappeared.
Yeah.
Especially me kind of being a historical guy from that regard.
Yeah.
There's no craftsmen anymore, and that kind of bothers me. I wish people would design buildings with some character instead of big flat walls now.
Yeah.
But buildings serve a purpose,
Yeah.
and everything evolves. So looking at that, you can have a beautiful building that's a big rectangle because it's so efficient at what it is, and you can also have a beautiful building because it has twists and turns and ionic or Corinthian columns, and it's beautiful from an aesthetic point of view. So I kind of see
both sides.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
What about integration of solar? Green technologies, new technologies.
I mean, self-healing concrete, and all kind of crazy stuff.
What is this? Self-healing concrete?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We
could have.
Can we get the details on that?
Yeah.
I don't want to take too much time, but
I mean,
self-healing. That sounds crazy.
It's a certain type of concrete that the mixed design enables it to repair itself. So as it gets damaged, it can repair a crack within itself.
It itself kind of fills the void and rebinds.
That's right.
Is that how it works?
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
So yet again, read up on that. I mean,
I don't know about that. I haven't.
Is it from the elements that are in the mix itself?
Absolutely. It's based on the mix design itself, because I mean, concrete's made up of. And like I said, we don't have to get all into this.
It's called Marvel concrete.
No, it is though. I encourage anybody to look it up on their phones right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you have ultra porous asphalt, that they're using on roadways now. Incorporation of certain polypropylenes into different aspects of to be more renewable.
Yeah.
Solar.
But what about solar? What's your thoughts on that? Like integrating that with a build.
So we haven't gotten into any. So that we haven't gotten into anything to that degree as far as solar as it relates to.
Not in the
our
commercial
industry.
aspect. Yeah. I mean.
But do you see benefits to it? Like if someone was to get on a solar roof or solar panels that feed to a battery, that's your generator instead of having the traditional generator.
Not for the demands of a commercial building.
Not for the demands of commercial building.
We've been on some. It's never solely the solution. I'll say it like that. It's just it's not as efficient yet as it's going to take to really take the 100% reins from some of the other conventional power generations that we have now. But
do you think it has the capacity to get there?
Oh, absolutely.
As technology evolves.
There's solar shingles.
Yeah,
right. So the Tesla solar roof.
That's
I've looked into that for my place.
Well, and Brendan and I have been on many calls with it as a developer and being a partner, and we were on many calls about this.
Charging stations that were,
charging stations in remote
solar
locations.
Charging.
Exactly.
Okay.
And using those for stations, out in the
stations,
desert and all over, that were specific to the structure at which they're housed in, generate the electricity for the actual charging station. So they would have, basically in-ground battery cells, and those solar cells would charge those battery cells, and then those would discharge to whoever came up to charge their car and
just plug their car.
It's cool. It's a lot of fun to think about and to think about it's only going to continue.
Obviously, there's a lot of room to grow in that area.
Absolutely.
But you guys think, at least now, you're not seeing a lot of commercial use, but do you think there's potential for that, or it could benefit someone in certain situations?
I think everything will change like it always does within the next 10 or 20 years. You'll see all kind of things coming in because technology's growing at such a rapid rate. I mean, just like you see with hydroelectric dams and stuff like that being integrated on a small level. I think it's a Dutch scientist, if I remember correctly, that created an offshoot from a river that spins an impeller, which powers certain. Yeah. So using imagine that
The wave technology.
Yeah,
I mean,
wave technology.
When I was in at the Citadel, we were learning about this up and coming technology, and one of them was the offshore underwater propellers that would take the tide movement.
Yeah, and the same thing with the waves.
Energy.
I was watching something the other day on the movement of the waves provides
the energy needed for whatever. There was also something
kinetic energy. It's harnessing that kinetic energy and being able to use natural energy to plug it right back into the grid.
That's the same thing with a windmill, right? Same concept.
Absolutely.
There used to be something that they would put a cable into the ground that would absorb heat, and then they would use that energy. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
It's geothermal.
Geothermal.
So
is that still around?
Absolutely. Yeah, geothermal is still around. That's a lot of that stuff is used, and I had a lot of experience with all of those things on residential applications. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I've seen it on residential.
I did tons and tons and tons of residential beach houses over the year, like really, really nice. Very elaborate, large scale, high end beach houses, and we got to deal with a lot of fun stuff like that.
What do they use the geothermal for? Like, how much energy would it actually supply?
Just for water, just for their water, heating their water.
Okay.
There's all kinds of different applications for all kind of different things. It's like having a smart house or anything else. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I think that's kind of the fun of that continued education, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Learning all these new things, being a part of it. Maybe utilizing stuff that's on the cutting edge in our own jobs and being able to design accordingly. And seeing where it goes. That's the fun of it. That's why we're here.
You guys ever work on any solar farms, or has anyone talked to you about solar farms?
As an intern through college, I worked on some power plants. But that's the closest thing I've gotten to any kind of renewable.
Yeah, because I saw there's a farm down in Bluffton, Georgia called White Oak Pasture, and I follow them on Instagram, and they have good beef, grass-fed beef. But anyway, they're big into regenerative farming, making sure that the earth is getting what it needs instead of putting chemical down, destroying the soil, which is happening in the Midwest.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They're making sure that they're regenerative with their farming, and one of the things they're doing is supporting local solar farms. I don't know if it's multiple one, but I know they have one where they bring their goats to. They let the goats out. They've put a fence around the solar farm, and the goats are doing the bush hogging.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely.
Cleaning it up, and then the goats are pooping. That poop is going into the soil. Microorganisms are back in the soil, keeping it, at a good state from the soil perspective. So, not to go off on a rabbit hole there, but
absolutely.
There's lots of ways to incorporate these kind of things together: the farming aspect, the construction aspect, and benefiting each other.
I think that's one thing that, despite of any political affiliation or any religion or anything, I think everybody in their heart of hearts wants to take care of where they live. So I'm excited to see, where that's going to go as far as, the different renewables and the different advances in construction technology and what you can use that is already there. Just like Brendan said, being simplistic about it all, especially in the farming, you don't need all that stuff. We didn't have it for thousands of years, There's a reason why we didn't need it, So let's kind of go back to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's another study that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's a chicken farmer. He does all poultry, but he incorporated beef herds into his poultry because he scrapes and uses the droppings into composting as well as his other crops that he grows, and he's created this full ring cycle of composting between manure and whatever he has left over from his crops that he uses as a byproduct. The chickens peck that, so he doesn't have to feed them, but then turns that back to fertilize the crops as well. I mean, just like you were saying earlier,
regenerative.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where all that goes. I think
that's how the earth is supposed to. I mean, nature the cycles of nature taking care of itself, we start removing pieces of that, or industrializing it too much. Like the big farms in the Midwest, they got chemicals that are just decimating the soils out there.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And
we all grew up rural. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I had a compost bin as a
Yeah.
kid. We drank well water. I mean, and it all worked well. Had a
Yeah.
huge garden. Like I said, plenty of animals, and I don't think I ever sprayed Roundup, not one time, unless
Yeah.
it was to, I think, kill ironweed a couple
Yeah.
of times, which was just, you couldn't kill it other
Yeah.
than to sit out there, with a lawnmower and run it
Yeah.
over or plow the ground and get it out. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I think it's exciting.
Same path, man.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Then epigenetics. Didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
What do you got on that?
No, I'm just saying. Then you talk about putting the stuff into your body.
Oh, exactly.
Relative
Exactly.
to one of the classes I took at Clemson was about, we learned something. Essentially, it was biology in the news, and it was just essentially, it was a class that forced us to always find reliable sources to get information and always be active in what's going on. And that, I think that was his whole intent of that class. That's what he wanted everyone to take from that. But anyways, we talked about epigenetics and essentially how you treat your body, how regardless of your DNA, how as you grow and you get older and your habits and what you eat and how your active lifestyle, regardless, will be a recessive trait to some degree, regardless, into your children. So
Yeah.
even though you might have been active when you were younger, but
Yeah.
as you continue to get older, you start eating worse, you start being less active, and then you have a child, automatically those epigenetics is they're going to have this recessive trait in them because of the habits that you had and made as you became older. That stuff blows my
I
mind.
learned
Yeah,
by
it's
watching
crazy.
you, Dad. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a son.
But I mean,
How do you think they learn? You
Well,
know?
well, if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not healthy and then you have a child, and if you're obesity, and again, I'm pulling these right off the hip from when I was at school. I'm just really fascinated by the fitness industry, like
Yeah.
yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But the impact you can have on your children because of your lifestyle, even if they're active their whole rest of their life, but because of the choices that you made and how your body changed and developed, already puts them at like a 70. Again, I think it's, I'm not trying to, but I think it's about 70% more likely to be obese because of the parents are.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But yeah, I mean, you got to be a good example to your
But that just
kids,
goes back to, I
your
mean, full circle,
team,
you know? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
what you put in is what you get out, and
Yeah.
then I believe that wholeheartedly as from a mental state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, and I think you're seeing a rise of farmers markets and all that stuff kind of come back around because people are sick of that, man. No one who wants to eat a bunch of processed, nasty food? I mean, when I
Yeah.
was a kid, like I said, we used to fish out of the lake and eat the fish. I mean, that's how we grew up. I mean, now everybody's got freaking microplastics in their bodies,
yeah.
and
Well, that's coming back to community, like you guys talked about earlier. I feel like we're going back to that, and like I said, Summerville's done a really great job of building that community mindset because they got that Summerville Farmers Market, and
It's
trust me,
awesome,
we
by the
I
go
was there.
to
I was there.
You went
Saturday.
Saturday? We go
got
to-
some tomatoes and blueberries.
good to go. We
Yes,
go
sir.
to a lot of farmers markets in the area. Summerville is the best one, you know.
oh, nice.
And
That's good to know.
you know, if you ain't been there, Justin, you got to check it out, man.
Oh,
But-
Dude, he's a golf cart right away.
Oh,
oh,
dude.
yeah. You good to
yeah.
go, bro.
I'm
But,
a regular, my friend. You better believe it.
So like people are buying local.
Oh,
Buying that
absolutely.
local honey, buying that local tomato, buying that local beef.
And I think,
or
again, it's
whatever.
important to be able to allow your team members to be able to maybe pay those extra few dollars to give them the ability to do so.
We just did that with our HVAC contractor. We butchered a whole cow this year.
Oh,
It
nice.
was one of the first years we had done it in
Yeah.
a long, long time. But beef got high.
Yeah.
My dad and I knew a gentleman that was, he has beef herds, and he had one. And we said, well, let's go ahead and do it. Went
Yeah.
in with one of our HVAC contractors. We butchered them up, split them, and we got 2 freezers full. I mean,
Heck
we,
yeah.
we couple that with our venison every year, but we always do venison. So that was, it's nice to not have to spend, $15 for a steak.
Yeah.
When I paid $2
Yeah, exactly.
ultimately,
And you're supporting a local farmer and you know how
absolutely.
they raise that cow.
And it's better
You
for
know what
you.
they do. And so we're talking about regenerative with the earth. We're regenerative with our community as well, supporting each other.
And we
You
use
know what
every
I'm saying?
part of it from the bones, bowl for broth and
Liver.
And,
You on the liver train?
oh
I know
yeah,
you're on that.
Hey, my brother-in-law's hard on that.
Is he?
Oh, dude, Ryan DePapi, Illuminate Realty, wherever you're at right now, absolutely killing it. Ryan's all over it.
Yeah. Testicles.
Yeah, I mean,
He's on the testicles
all right,
too.
So I've eaten a lot growing up. Okay, I don't know if he's on that road, but I know he's on the liver road.
They
So,
say you don't need to eat vegetables if you're eating the testicles. That's what they say. I haven't tried it myself, but that's what they say.
some Rocky Mountain
I
oysters.
expect a
My
story.
dad was quite adventurous growing up, and I've had about every meat you could imagine. But I'll leave that to everyone's imagination.
So I guess Rocky Mountain oysters aren't too bad then.
I'm still here, aren't I? Okay, that's
Good to go. But all right, Brendan, any closing thoughts, or Justin, any more from you guys? What do you guys
thank you
got?
for having
Appreciate
us.
the time.
Yeah,
This
we
was
really
fun.
enjoyed it.
Appreciate you guys taking the time to sit down on the Pack Talk podcast, have a couple Jockos, talk a little bit. Maybe we'll have to do it again in the future, get a little bit of
Oh yeah.
as the years go by, keep in touch on the podcast, see how you guys are doing. But again, Gilbert and Lee Construction, go to their website, go to their socials, go to their personal socials, get to know these guys, like them, trust them. If you guys have any questions that they might be able to help you with, I'm sure if you reach out to them, they'd be more than happy to answer or give you guys some guidance.
Absolutely.
So Ben over here, our production guy that lit Brendan on fire back in the day.
Good
for
job,
that,
buddy.
For that high school video. He is at Big Boy Jabba on Instagram himself. Also Canine Revolution Dog Training. I'm at Chad Singer 13 on Instagram, Canine Revolution Dog Training. And if you guys want to support the podcast, you can go to the link tree in the description below. Click on that link tree. Click the Good to Go shirt. Go on Amazon, buy that Good to Go shirt. You'll be good to go. And until next time, we appreciate you guys as a listener. And we'll see y'all next time. Out.